Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first edition of the MMA on the Island podcast. My name is Joe Frescott, joined alongside Aodhan Williams. For the very first edition, it is the pilot episode, folks. It's one of those things, we talked about it for a long time. It finally got out of the group chat. Aodhan, I couldn't be happier to be here with you today.
I couldn't be happier either, Joe. This is exciting stuff. I'm ready to get this going.
Yeah, man, and before we get started, and there's a lot to talk about, UFC Charlotte was a widely successful event on numerous fronts, so outside of just the fights, the attendance, everything from the fights to just everything in between was fantastic. But first, I would like to introduce ourselves a little bit. So my name is Joe Frescott. I'm a junior journalism and broadcasting major at LIU Post, hoping to do something like this full-time for a living one day. That's the dream. That's what we're shooting for. And this is one step closer here today. Aodhan, grateful enough. Thank you so much for letting us use your basement for this episode.
Man. My pleasure.
The set is a work in progress. So of course, it looks a little, I don't know, what's the right word to describe what we got here? I guess a little makeshift.
Makeshift.
Little makeshift. Got the foldable table, but it's a work in progress. I'm telling you, once we get a couple months under our belts, it'll look like as professional as it gets. But Aodhan, I'm good introducing myself. What about you, brother?
All right, I'm Aodhan Williams. I'm 19 years old. I attend SUNY Nassau for nursing. Let's see. I serve in the U.S. Marine Corps as well. Semper Fi.
Oh, yeah.
Started getting into MMA not too long ago. Yeah. I've been watching the UFC for quite some time, so it was only inevitable from when I, started doing this stuff in real life. And I'm excited to talk about it, excited to do it, and can't wait. Let's get to it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And, speaking of, I just started training as well, Aodhan, as you know. We've been wanting to train for, it feels like 2 years now. Ever since I stopped playing football in high school, I was like, I need to get in the gym. I want to start training MMA. And finally able to. We shared a class last Friday, was it?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, that's Friday. Great time. Shout out Long Island MMA. Yes. Ryan LaFleur's gym, former UFC fighter. He does a great job with a lot of those guys.
Yes.
In the future, we will have guests. We would like to get start with a bunch of those guys from Long Island MMA and then branch out further as the show grows. But for this episode 1, for the pilot, we're going to keep it simple. It's just going to be me and Aodhan tonight talking UFC. And with that, let's talk UFC.
Let's talk
Charlotte.
UFC.
This past Saturday.
What an event.
And what an event it was. It really didn't feel like a fight night. The atmosphere felt like a pay-per-view. I don't know about you.
Might as well have been a pay-per-view. The fights on the main card were great. Almeida, Gary, who else was on there? Almeida, Gary,
Moreno as well.
Moreno,
yeah, there's a bunch of guys.
Oh, how could I forget? Matt Brown as well, dude.
Matt Brown, the GOAT, the prelim king. But in terms of attendance, UFC Charlotte was sold out in the highest attended event that was not a pay-per-view, was just a fight night in the UFC's entire history. And there were 7 finishes on the total fight card.
Yep. And
Dana White was grateful enough to give 5 post-fight bonuses awarded, and that was the most ever for a single fight night. So just overall, a really outstanding event. And I want to start with the man that you just talked about, Matt Brown, getting the first round knockout against Mr. McGee.
What? That was a knockout, and as you already know, he tied Derek Lewis for most knockouts in UFC history.
Yeah, 13.
And I don't think he plans on stopping anytime soon. Well, that we'll see. But
we will see.
He is 42 years old, and he's still kicking it, man.
He's still kicking it, man. And you talk about 13 finishes. I mean, granted, he's had 30 fights in the UFC. I don't think that's the record, but I mean, it's certainly up there.
It is. I think Jim Miller has it.
Yeah, Jim Miller does have the record, but I think he's in the mid-30s. I don't know if Matt Brown's going to be able to catch him.
Yeah, I don't know. Miller, I think he's at 36, 38, so we'll see. We'll see how Matt Boy
Brown,
keeps going.
Man, he looked good, and even
did.
In that first round before the finish, he was piecing up McGee on the feet. I mean, obviously, he did have the striking advantage there, and coming into the fight, that was kind of clear, but just a clean right. I mean, it wasn't even like any of those looping shots. It was just a straight right hand, and it connected, and it was beautiful to watch.
There was a clip of him saying that from the moment the fight started, when his opponent was throwing the right hand, that he saw the opening for his jab, and it connected in the second round, and
oh man,
it was flawless. It was beautiful.
It really was. And And that was just the prelims. So Matt Brown really kicked it off and set the tone for what this fight card was going to be. And next up on the main event card was not Brandon Moreno.
No,
the heck is it Moreno's
Alex
first
Moreno.
name? Alex Moreno. There you go. Versus Tim Means. I knew Tim Means' first name. Alex Moreno. I'm thinking of the champ right now at 125.
Brandon Moreno. That's gonna be an exciting card.
He's gonna be fighting at UFC International Fight Week.
Yes.
Oh man.
He's trying to get that trilogy.
That is gonna be a phenomenal fight. Him versus who is he?
Alexandre Pantoja.
Yeah, Pantoja.
Pantoja's beat him twice already too.
I know. There's a lot of history.
Moreno's evolved as a fighter, man. I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, we saw what happened in the 4 fights with the when Moreno and Figueiredo. I mean, those were just all great, and every single one was different. So you think Pantoja definitely gonna be confident going in, the fact that he's already had it, but
the clear-cut contender.
Brandon Moreno has really elevated his game to like the next level at this point.
And you saw what he did, right? He called out after Cejudo lost to Sterling. He called him out too. He wants that fight in Mexico at 35.
That would be a big fight.
That would be
a big fight. I would. Although I think Cejudo responded and said we ain't fighting in Mexico.
Yeah, no, absolutely
not. Probably a good decision. A good decision. But let's toss Alex Moreno getting a second round sub with 2:09 left in the round. It was his 7th pro submission win in his 18th UFC fight, and it was really just a perfectly executed performance from Moreno after a very, very competitive first round.
It was, and it was a good get-back fight from him as well. He lost Santiago Ponzinibbio in his last fight, so he needed this against the veteran Tim Means. Means he's coming off his 3rd straight loss, but it's still a great fight overall.
And Tim Means is a guy that he's really been a UFC veteran, and he's been like a staple of the organization, but he's never somebody who, through 27 fights, now 39 years old, never really kind of got, himself going outside of just, he was never really in the title picture, but he was always a guy that was, he was ranked at one point, and he's always been a staple of the organization, but after dropping his 3rd straight, especially in that fashion, that was a perfectly executed guillotine on the part of Moreno, just to recognize the situation and see the takedown coming and get the guillotine. It was just perfectly executed.
No, honestly, it was a good setup shot too by Means, and then Moreno spun around and he caught him with the guillotine, and before the fight was over.
I mean, it's 101 when you're taking a guy down in an MMA fight. Obviously, that doesn't apply to wrestling, but if you're jiu-jitsu and competing MMA, you got to make sure you protect your neck, because as soon as anyone gets taken down, I feel like in MMA just in general, the first thing they're doing is they're just shooting that guillotine immediately.
Yes.
It's just straight to the guillotine.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of like that bailout choke where it's like, oh, I'm in a terrible spot, but if I can get under his neck, then it's wraps.
And he did.
But Moreno, exactly, and he did. So absolutely outstanding from him. And Moreno is a guy who's he's got up and downs in the UFC career.
He
has
a solid record though. 23-8 professional record.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Tough,
and he's getting up there to the point where he's almost like a veteran. I feel like I remember a couple of years ago when he came in, especially when he beat Cowboy a few years back. He was like a guy that was like, on the rise. But then he had a couple of losses in there. But now finally on that winning trajectory once again, and I'm excited to see what he does. He's a very well-rounded fighter. He has a lot of wins via TKO, submission, decision. He's very well-rounded. Yeah, so he's a guy to look out for. And for the next fight on the card, the second fight on the card, it was Olberg versus, and I apologize if I say this wrong, Potiera?
I think
how you say it? Potiera?
I think that's right, Potiera.
Yeah, and these two guys coming in, Potiera and Olberg, were two guys that I've generally never heard of. And I wouldn't call myself a casual by any means.
No, please. Call me casual too. I haven't heard of either of them.
Yeah, I've never heard of either, but, upon more research, Olberg, really fantastic KO, TKO, and he's a guy that is kind of on a good trajectory here. And with that win, it was really like a blink and you missed it. I don't know if you watched it.
What was special about his win, too, is he stopped the fight himself. Once he saw his opponent was out of it, he told the ref, and then the fight was over.
He was like, I'm good. Yeah,
I'm good.
And that's honestly
respect to the fighter, though.
That's what I'm talking about. I love when fighters have respect. I know there's those special circumstances where you got a big rivalry, and like Masvidal Askren, where Askren just rained shots on his head after when he was unconscious. That's personal beef. But like for it's MMA, it's a sport of respect at the end of the day. You're fighting for a living. these guys are prize fighters. They're not just fighting just to fight.
No.
That's how they put food on the table. So for him to, get the really nice finish, which was a nasty left hook, kind of like off his back foot, and I feel like that was the entire round. He was letting Potier come to him, and just really that counter left put him to sleep. And when I first watched it, and I don't know if you agree, but I didn't even really see the left hook.
I didn't either.
I
didn't.
Until the replay, the slow-mo. It really was a blink and you miss it finish. And so Ulberg, a guy that I think he might be ready for that top 15 competition. I think maybe one more fight till he gets that top 15.
Yeah, I believe that was his 4th fight in the organization and his 3rd finish. So, and Potier he has a solid record as well. So he's not
he's not no
fighter
slouch.
or anything like
he's
that.
He's not no slouch. So I mean,
we'll see. I like him going against Jimmy Crute. I think he's ranked 14th right now.
That's not bad. Yeah,
that's not a bad
and
matchup.
especially in the division. And we'll talk a little bit more about
potential matchups.
Matchups later in the show, but
absolutely.
When you look at the light heavyweight division, just in general, it's very, very top heavy, and it is very open at the top. Jamaliah Hill, Sweet Dreams Hill is the champion, but I think there's a lot of guys in there that are just really good fighters, and I think there's that top 6 to 8 that's quality. But then after that, look at the rest, and it is wide open.
It is.
It is wide
Especially
open.
with Poatan moving up too. That's gonna create a lot of chaos in the lightweight division.
Yes it is. And now, man, I love that, man. I'm really excited to see what he looks like with more size now, and that's only gonna help his chin even more.
Yes.
When you talk about Poatan going up a division.
Absolutely.
And he's a guy that I could see fighting one of those top 6 to 8 guys.
He will. There's no way he's fighting a guy under, I would say, Walker was ranked 7th going to this fight, so I can only imagine Smith is going to drop down to 7. So I don't see Poatan fighting any less of a caliber fighter. So I could see him fighting Walker potentially, but we'll see what happens.
See, that would be a very interesting
Set him
fight.
up right for a fight with Hill,
Yeah. I mean, Poatan's a guy where it's he's not really, he's not kind of a young guy coming up because he has such a long kickboxing career. So it's it's kind of it's like a Michael Chandler situation where it's he's a guy where the road's gonna end sooner rather than later.
Yes.
So it's gonna be more for him to get as fast as he can get to the title as possible.
I mean, look at his best bud though, Glover Teixeira. He won the belt at 42 years old.
Oh, my
Second
goodness.
oldest fighter to win it behind Randy Couture.
Literally. I mean, Randy Couture. That man was.
He was a legend.
I mean, he's a legend, but he's one of a kind in terms of his ability just to and even Glover too. Just I don't know how these guys fight at so old, being so old.
Man.
And Matt Brown at 42 still knocking people out.
Dude, it's
elite
special.
fighters. It's
absolutely special.
Yeah, I mean I know. There's just some people who are just special athletes, and I feel most of these guys. If you're a ranked UFC fighter, you're a special athlete.
You're special to begin
But
with,
if you're still fighting at 42 years old, that's a whole
for
different
world
level.
titles too.
For a whole
knocking people
world
out.
title, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's awesome, man.
It's ridiculous. And now we got into the top 3, which was a lot what most fight fans I feel around the MMA community were buzzing about, and that was the Daniel Rodriguez versus Ian Gary fight. Rodriguez came in.
Man.
Yeah, man, me too.
Fight.
And 15th ranked fighter, so Ian Gary finally getting his shot at a ranked opponent. And oh my goodness,
dude, he looked
good.
Phenomenal.
He
looked phenomenal.
And the crazy part is, I had such high expectations for Daniel Rodriguez, and he's a really good fighter.
He is.
I can't put anything past him. I think of the last fight. I don't know if it's his last fight. It's the last fight I remember watching of his versus Li Jijiang. Where, granted, there was a little bit of a size difference and weight difference because, that was
a catchweight fight, right? At 180.
Because
the whole Chimaev card.
Yeah, Chimaev, thanks. Chimaev missed weight like an idiot.
9.5 pounds, dude.
That was bad. I still think that's set up. I don't know about you guys. I think that was still
the way he was laughing it off afterwards, man.
I feel like he gave Dana, and Dana was a little too cool about it.
He was.
Because he's somebody that gets heated for something as unprofessional as that.
He was. Well, you know what he did, though? I don't know if you remember this. When Jeff Neal fought Shavkat Rakhmonov, Neal was over by 5 pounds, and he actually got the fight of the night bonus, too. So, I don't know, man. It all depends on circumstances, I guess. But 9 pounds, that's almost an entire weight class above.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And but back to this fight, and I wanna put a little bit of a clip in here, and we'll play it right now, of Ian Gary. He was on a podcast, and we'll shout it out, when I play the clip. but he was on a podcast and he actually called his shot for that right head kick.
Beautiful.
Let's take a look at what he said.
The following audio that you will hear was taken from the Ringer MMA show with interviewer Peter Carroll talking to Ian Gary.
This is the first fight in a while where I get to study, like genuinely allow my brain to do what it fucking does, which is just be so intelligent. This is where my fight IQ is so much greater than everybody else. Is my brain will just tick, and I've already got the map in my head. Like I can tell you how I'm going to knock him out.
Do it. I want to hear it.
Right high kick.
Oh,
and anything else, Pete, I didn't mean. If I knock him out with anything else, I didn't mean it. That's the only shot I want. That's the knockout I want. Right high kick. I want him stiff on his back.
Well, what a scene that would be. What a scene that would be in.
And Aodhan, I mean, for a fighter to just call his shot like that, like you literally told the podcaster that he was going to finish him with that right head kick. And granted, he did. And, set up perfectly. And granted, he did say that he was gonna, knock him out cold. But that shot was.
But that head kick was the beginning of the end.
Exactly.
Rodriguez was already falling to the mat by the time he was finishing with the ground and pound.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something where Gary, he's very high confidence, and he's somebody who's like, there are some people, we'll say a little arrogant, a little brash, but he is one of those guys where he's a guy that the UFC likes and one of those special talents that they push.
Yes.
Because they have a few of those guys. And he's one of them, but I think he is by far, in my opinion, the most capable, and he really showed it on Saturday night. Because Daniel Rodriguez, he made Daniel Rodriguez look like
he didn't belong.
Not a top. Yeah,
no,
he didn't belong.
No.
He didn't belong. No, I couldn't have said it by myself. He did look like Daniel Rodriguez did not belong, and Daniel Rodriguez is a top 15. I think he's very clearly. I mean, he will lose his ranking because of the loss.
He will.
But he's a top 15 fighter at that weight class in the world at this point. And Ian Gary made it look like he wasn't even on the
What I like about Gary is, a lot of people, they like to compare him to McGregor. He's one of two active Irish fighters, obviously, McGregor and himself.
Yep.
But after the fight, Gary was talking about his 7-fight plan to a shot at the title. So and I think that was his 5th fight in the UFC already. So he does not want any shortcuts by any means necessary.
No.
So you got to respect the kid for, the work he wants to put in and the journey to the top, and I'm looking forward to watching it as his fights progress and
and in that post-fight press conference as well, he called out Neil Magny. And that was something that really shows, Ian Gary's character, because he's a very confident fighter, but he's very he's very intelligent, and he knows what fight would be best for him.
Yes.
And a guy like Neil Magny has come to the point, and I feel like we're going to talk about this term a little bit more later. Excuse me. Got a little burps here. I had a little bit. I mean, I would say I had too much to eat today, but I didn't eat anything.
Yeah,
so, man. I don't know what's going on. I think I worked out too much.
I think so, man. You
two
worked hard
2-hour leg day in the morning, and then 3 hours of MMA at night. It was just it's been a long day. It's been a long day. But when you talk about the term gatekeeper.
Yes.
And I think Neil Magny is one of those guys where he's like a gatekeeper into the top
he is.
10. I think he's ranked 10 right now, and it's perfect.
I think Magny's 11th.
11th?
11th, yes.
Oh, yeah, but he's right in that mix.
He's in that cup, yes.
Where he's like, okay, you have to beat me to get to the top 10,
Yes.
So it's like,
and Magny, actually, he just finished D-Rod in their last fight. He submitted him, so
yeah.
that is a very smart move by
it really is.
by Gary. But I don't know if you know, Magny's fighting in June against Eric Rowe, who just fought against
Eric Rowe's good too.
Eric Rowe,
another
oh my God, Nico Price, who's fighting Lawler at International Fight League.
Oh, that's gonna be a great fight.
We don't know. Rowe might take that top 11 spot. I'm hoping he doesn't, just for Gary's sake.
If Neil Magny wins, it would be an even better fight for him. I didn't even know Neil Magny had a fight lined up.
I just saw this the other day. I looked it up.
I think either way, I think it'd be perfect. I think Gary, I think he should fight the winner regardless of either.
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll talk about the matchups that we would like to see later.
Absolutely.
But I think that's the ideal scenario for him. But next we got into the co-main event. And this is one where a lot of people were excited. It was a big test for the man Johnny Walker against Anthony Lionheart Smith. And Dana wasn't happy about the performance.
I can understand his frustration. I can.
Yeah.
A lot of Walker's performance was leg kick oriented. I mean, granted, it played off greatly, but especially towards the end of the fight, you could see that Smith, he just didn't want to be there, man. Like
No.
he was falling. Like,
Well, his legs were
oh my
battered.
God, no, they were damaged
Battered,
brutally.
yeah. He's a guy who fights. There's some guys that do switch orthodox and southpaw, but he's
Yeah.
a guy that fights primarily orthodox, and the legs hurting. It's like the biggest talent in all of MMA and just sports in general is when a guy's fighting orthodox, and then all of a sudden you see him switch. And he switches to southpaw, and you could tell every time he switched to southpaw, he was so uncomfortable. It's not a position he's really ever in, yet that was what he was doing, and it was just, I personally, when I saw that Dana wasn't impressed, I was a little. I mean, granted, you care as a promoter about the excitement of the fight.
Of course.
You want to make sure the fights are exciting, right? And that fight was by no means exciting. But Johnny Walker, when you look at his career trajectory, I feel like, and he's a guy that trains out of the same gym and same coaches as Conor. He's a guy that early on in his career, he was like an elite athlete, one of those top 1% athletes in the sport, but he wasn't very composed, and he got himself hurt, one time just celebrating after a win.
Yeah.
He blew out his shoulder and had to sit out for almost a whole year. So a guy like Johnny Walker to come in against a guy like Anthony Smith, who's an experienced veteran, I think he's on his way out. I think he's a very good commentator, and he's very good analyst. So I think that's more his future rather than fighting. At least that's just in my opinion.
No, I would agree too, man.
He's only 34, so he's very young. But for Johnny Walker to go in there and execute a game plan that is just leg kicks, leg kick heavy oriented, I'm super impressed with it.
I am too. You could tell how much he's matured over his last few fights.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything outlandish. He stuck to his game plan, and I think the scorecards were two 30-27s and a 29-28. So he dominated the fight, and I'm looking forward to see where he goes next.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where the 29-28 was coming. I mean, personally, I thought Walker
I could see why. I thought that second round was close. I thought Smith was being a little more active, but I thought maybe Walker's volume paid more.
Yeah, I think that second round was by far the closest round, and the third was when Walker completely started dominating with those kicks. Smith really had no answer. I would have liked to see him get the finish in that situation.
He was being hesitant. I don't know why he was hesitant to finish it. I don't know if it was out of respect. I don't know what it was.
I think it's I think that's another thing that's a testament to his maturity and growth as a fighter. Because when you think about if this was Johnny Walker a couple years ago, I'm not so sure that maybe he does get the finish, but he puts himself in the line of danger because I feel like a lot when he would get guys hurt, you would see him like charge, or try to throw something wild and looping and expose himself.
Yes.
And that's when he got hurt against the current champion of that division, Jamel Hill, where I think he actually had Hill a little bit on his back foot, but then when Hill hit him with that right, he went,
oh my gosh,
that infamous clip where he went whoop, it went back. It was great, but
you could a couple of Walker's previous finishes against Paul Craig. Not to say it looked sloppy, but it was just
just
non-technical.
One of the hammer
exactly.
Things,
Same thing against Ryan Spann. So to see how he went into this fight, and stuck to his game plan and won.
Game plan. Okay.
You have to be impressed with that.
That's what I'm saying.
3-fight win streak. I could see 2 more fights away from a rematch with Hill or whoever the champion will be at the time.
Right, and Walker now puts himself in that top 5 conversation in the light heavyweight division. That, like I said, it's very top heavy, and he's one of those guys that's kind of that we've been waiting to see grow and develop. And now that his development is where he currently stands, I'm really excited to where he goes next. He's a type of personality too that could really make to be like.
He is. I started to like Walker, man. I see some clips of him. Like, I don't know if you've seen the one clip, but it was like in the middle of a round, and then he just looks at the camera and smiles and stuff like that. Like, he's a goofball, but he's a good fighter. More importantly.
He's definitely a goofball. That's like the perfect term to describe it. But, and he's a guy that, people gravitate to those kind of personalities. Yes. And he's somebody that it's like, if he's able to keep this winning streak going, he could be a guy that the UFC really pushes. Because they push certain guys. Absolutely. There's guys that they absolutely push in terms of promotions or push up in, when rankings and fights, they fast track some individuals for all these different reasons. But Johnny Walker, if he can get himself, I think honestly, he might be one really good. If he's able to finish somebody in the top 5, I could see very well the UFC, pushing somebody like that. Because I think Johnny Walker could headline a card if he's the challenger.
So you think he's one fight away from a title shot?
I think it depends on the quality of win.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I think it has to do a little bit with opponent, And again, we're going to talk about our future matchups in a bit.
Joe, honestly, that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad take at all, because you look at the top 5, right? Ankalaev and Blachowicz, they just both fought, and that fight ended in a draw. So those are the 2 and 3 ranked guys.
And they should probably just run it back.
They should
at that point.
Yeah, no, you know what?
For a draw, I feel
I know
like, I feel like it's the only right answer. It's like you gotta run it back.
Man. And then Alexander Rakic, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. He's ranked 4th, and I don't know when he's coming back.
Yeah.
So Walker, one quality win. I wouldn't be opposed to a title shot.
Yeah, I mean, and again, Jamal Hill, does he have a fight right now scheduled?
Who? Jamal Hill?
Yeah, Jamal Hill.
There's talks for him and Prohashka at UFC 292 in Boston.
Yes, they're waiting for Prohashka to come back.
So right. I like Jesus. I like killing that fight. I do.
Really?
I do, man.
Wow.
Especially with the layoff Prohashka's had.
Oh man, Prohashka's so good.
I
can't wait to. He's a guy that unlike Don, because I've only ever seen him fight. I mean, not like live, like in the stadium, but live, just like on the TV. I haven't really seen him fight that much, live. I've only ever seen a couple of his fights. That Glover fight. I remember I was at a party. I was watching it on a illegal stream on my phone, and I couldn't look away because that fight was absolute fireworks. But I think Yuri might have it. I think Yuri might have his number. That's a debate for another time. But I think Yuri might have his number in that.
Quick, harp on this real quickly. The only reason I like killing that fight is you look at the difference between the fights they both had with Glover. Now, when Hill fought Glover, it was 50-44 unanimously across all 3 judges. That was, granted, Glover got his hits in, but overall, start to finish, Hill looked flawless, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go into the fight with Glover and Prohashka. They had Glover winning. I think 2 of the judges had Glover winning on that card, and then he went for the takedown instead of the finish in round 5, and that set Prohashka with the rear naked choke in the 5th round. So
yeah, and that was such a surprising turn.
It was. Man, I was really rooting for Glover, man.
Oh, me too. I love Glover. Glover's one of those guys that when I first started watching sport, I was like, oh man, he's like, he was somebody that was always in the mix, but never got to that ultimate goal of becoming a champion. And that when he went on the most recent run when he won the title against Jan Blachowicz, I mean, I was joyed to see that, and he gained so much of my respect. Not that my respect means
exactly,
anything,
not like he needs our respect,
right? I mean, he doesn't need our respect. He's a world champion and one of the best fighters to ever walk this earth. But I mean, just a fantastic fighter at that division, at that weight class, and really an all-time great.
And that weight class, especially with a potential, well, not potential, with the Aodhan move. That weight class was starting to get a little dead, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. I think light heavyweight still needs a little bit of fire. I think Johnny Walker is one of those guys that could bring bring that excitement back.
Up to that weight class.
After John Jones left, it was kind of like, I mean, I like Jan Blachowicz. I thought he was a great fighter. I thought he did great against Izzy, and but he's kind of been on a skid. And then you got Yuri out a little bit, with that injury. So now you got Jamal Hill, who's the champion right now, but I don't think anyone's truly convinced that Jamal Hill is the best that there is at listen, and I think he's anyone who doesn't think he's in the top 3 is ridiculous.
Yes.
But I think that
but there's still
questions. There's still questions.
Yes.
So I think I'm excited to see where the light heavyweight division goes. But let's go a little bit higher and a little bit more of the little bigger guys, the guys that don't gotta cut weight.
Yes.
How about let's talk heavyweights now?
Almeida, he doesn't have to cut a single pound.
Oh, dude.
Oh my God, that kid has a future.
He is shredded to the nines.
Jeez.
If I could look like that man,
that is my ideal.
If I woke every day, looked like him, I would be happy.
Oh my God.
Let's be honest.
I would never complain again in my life.
I mean, you don't have much to complain about anyway. But let's go to the main event, Almeida versus Rosenstruck. And Almeida just
I get chills
dominant.
Saying his name, man. He is a
dominant
stud. Absolute stud. And he was a minus 500 favorite going into that fight. So I don't think anybody expected a different outcome. Whatchamacallit, as I reading these notes, Almeida sub round 1, 3 minutes and 43 seconds in. Almeida's game plan across, I think that was his 6th UFC fight, has been constant. He takes his opponent down. He either puts him in a rear naked choke or he finishes with a ground and pound. It's remained constant as he's progressed through the competition. I'm excited. I'm excited for where he ends up.
He's a guy where it's like, man, how it was such an exciting a finish, and it's just dominant from the opening bell to the submission in less than a round. And I saw a graphic, and I just added this in because I saw it. And of course, me and Aodhan both MMA nerds, so we're always looking at these kind of things. You know, I half of my feed, I would say at least 75% of my feed is MMA.
Absolutely.
But he has only been hit in his 6 UFC wins 9 times. I'll say that again. He's fought 6 different people. He has only been hit 9 times.
That's not even 2 strikes a fight.
That's not even 2 strikes a fight. That's less than 2 strikes a fight. Do you understand how ridiculous that is?
That is unheard of.
That and in a heavyweight division, I mean, granted, it's heavyweight, so, you know, the talent level, I feel, when you look at top, like, I'm talking bottom barrel of the roster to top of the roster, I think is the weakest, and it's always been the weakest.
Yeah.
You know, heavyweight's always been a top-heavy division in just MMA in general. But oh my goodness, to only be hit 9 times.
I know, that's insane. But Almeida, he just had a catchweight fight at 220 pounds. I think that was 2 fights ago.
Yeah.
So he could fluctuate between heavyweight and maybe potentially light heavyweight. I don't know if he wants to make that cut right now. Why should he? He's, you know, based on the way he's dominating. But
and I'm pretty sure that you know, speaking of the weight cut, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was the weigh-ins or the day of the weigh-ins, but I know that Rosenstruck had a 30-pound advantage.
34 pounds.
34 pounds. And that was at the weigh-ins?
Huh?
Am I mistaken? Is that the weigh-ins?
That was
the
weigh-ins.
At the fight?
No, that was at the weigh-ins.
I know they do weigh them at you know, fight night as well.
Yes.
But at the weigh-ins, have a 30-pound advantage. You gotta think Rosenstruck's putting on more weight,
yeah.
Whereas Almeida, he's not cutting anything. He's just, you know, in freaking brolic great shape. I mean,
he's a stud.
If he could, honestly, if he wants to be, you know, I mean, granted, I don't even know if he needs to do this, but if he put on more weight, more size,
even like 10 pounds, he doesn't need to have a drastic.
I know, yeah, 10 pounds,
weight.
and you know, and it's tough because again, you know, with MMA, you know, with just or just in general, when you have more muscle mass, you're generally going to be
it weighs you down.
Yeah, and you're going to get, you know, tired faster because, you know, the blood has to go to the muscles. I mean, you've heard the analogy a million times. They talk about it in every broadcast when a guy gets tired. It's like, oh, the lactic acid built up in the muscles. And thinking, you know, then they think they're scientists. They're not. They don't know how that sports science stuff works. But, you know, anyway, but yeah, again, but it is true. With the more muscle mass you have, you know, it's more oxygen that has to go to, you know, into the blood and fill those muscles. So they get tired faster, so it's a slippery slope, but I think he definitely does. He could put on a little bit more weight. He
could, especially with those bigger guys. I mean, they're all weighing 265, but you know, and we'll talk about this later, like you said. But with the potential fight with Blades, or you know, maybe Spivak or Pavlovich, like those guys are heavy hitters, big wrestlers. So we'll see what Almeida does and the weight he puts on as the time goes on. But I'm looking forward to watching him.
Yeah, man. So for our very first edition. And you'll get the routine once you watch every episode because you're gonna want to.
You're gonna want to. What else do you have to do?
What else do you have to do with your time if you're an MMA fan? Then watch us talk about it because you want to talk about it too. And if you want to get in on the conversation,
hit us up.
You know, comment down below, send us a DM, whatever you got to do. We would love to talk to you, and we'd love to have people on the show. If you want to talk MMA, we'd love to have you on. So
we live for this.
We appreciate I mean, I didn't want to put it like that.
It's true.
It's true.
I can't help it.
It's true. The truth hurts. Aodhan was nice enough to say it. I didn't want to say we live for it, but every Saturday when there's a fight card on, I don't want to do anything else. It don't matter if I'm in public.
No.
Honestly, I don't know if you agree with this, but at the amount of times where I'm just in public, and it's mostly MMA, honestly, but it goes for other sports as well, where I'm just like, I'll be at like a social event, like I'll be hanging with friends, or I'll be with family. And I'll have a fight card just on my phone.
Yes, no, you're not alone. You are not alone.
It's every single time. Like it's like clockwork for me at this point. I'm like, all right, there's a UFC fight on. Let me turn on ESPN.
Yeah, I know. You know. Just sucks though, especially on the Saturday cards when it's a fight night. The times change too. You know, you got it for 3 p.m., 10 p.m.
That's why, I didn't know about the time. The times was 3 o'clock because I was working, and I was like, you know, and my shift was 11 to 4. And I'm starting to get the notification that fights are starting. I'm like, oh my goodness, no way. So, you know, I had to watch it. I was like, I'm in public situations. Same thing happens for work. I'm not doing anything.
You got to throw it on, man.
Posting that bitch up right there, and I got to, you know, watch it.
Absolutely.
But, you know, but with these times, like 3 o'clock, it's annoying.
Dude, it's annoying.
It's annoying. Honestly, I wish that they had every fight night, kind of at like 7. Imagine like
Yeah,
the main
7 would be
card
that'd
at
be
7.
perfect.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
Saturday evening, 7 p.m. Oh,
Dude,
gosh.
because you're done. Then the fights are done at like 9:30,
Yes.
and then the boys get to go out.
They had a card.
Doesn't get better than
That is true.
Doesn't get better than that.
That doesn't get better than that. When Lewis fought Spivak a couple months ago, that main card started at 1 a.m. Who was up at? I mean, listen,
Oh my
I
gosh,
might be up
yes,
at 1 a.m.
I remember
but
that. I remember that. But you
Oh
want to know
my
what that was? I don't know if you remember, but that fight was actually supposed to take place in
January, I think, right?
What?
Oh, was it January or December? And then it got pushed back a few
Well, it
weeks.
was supposed to take place. I don't remember when, but I know where. It was supposed to take place in Japan, and it was supposed to take place. And they purposely stacked the cards for when they do on location
Of course.
events, they stack the cards with especially out of the country with fighters that are in that in that country. So if it's a fight in Brazil, fight card in Brazil, a lot of Brazilian fighters fight.
Yes.
So that fight card was a lot of Asian fighters, Japanese, Chinese, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
Japan's a big freaking what's it called? Oh my goodness.
Nation.
No, it's well, I'm blanking. This is bad. I would go back and I would fail first grade geography.
Oh, geography.
What is it?
Gosh,
What is it
I don't
called?
even want to think about that.
It's not. Is it a continent?
No, Japan's not a continent. It's a
No,
nation.
but it's like.
We're gonna have to look this up.
I'm gonna,
we
I'm
need to
gonna
fact
fi-
check ourselves.
I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. What is Japan? Okay, no, it's just Asia. I'm thinking of
Asia's
Asia.
a continent.
I
Japan.
keep saying Japan, thinking I'm saying Asia. See, this is really bad. This is really bad. I'm embarrassed personally, as somebody who's graduated top 30 in their class in high school, not to flex, and then now has a 4.0 in college. To not know I was talking about Asia as a continent.
We can memorize
and
the
Japan.
rankings. We don't know our
to
continent.
all of my Asian people for generalizing you guys all as Japan. I'm an idiot. But
No.
let's continue. And let's pivot. But it was all Asian fighters.
Yes.
So
Yes.
why it's 1 a.m.
That rings a bell.
towards that.
That makes sense.
That Asian audience, not Japanese, Joe. God damn it. Okay. So let's pivot here, and every week with the main event, obviously we go through every single fight, but we want to give our own performance of the night cards. I know Dana gave 5 of them. We want to give a little bit of our own, and they're a little bit different than what you see. So the first one, we got the biggest stock risers, the guys whose stock I think rose the most. And for me personally, I'm gonna go with Carlos Ulberg because Ulberg was a guy coming in. I didn't know him. Aiden didn't know him.
I can attest to that.
And he was the second fight on the card, and he was fantastic. Now he pushed his win streak to 4 with 3 straight, and he's a New Zealand native. He fights out of City Kickboxing along with Izzy. And
what better partner
he's a
to
guy
train
that
with, right?
I thought, and he's his training partner. So he's a guy that's seeing the best of the best.
He is
every single day. And at 32 years old, when I was originally doing my research, I'm like, man, this dude definitely gotta be his mid-20s. 32 is a little old.
No, it's
especially
not
for
young.
A fighter. Yeah, no, not young. But I think now is the time for him. He's a guy that, in the same way where Glover didn't get his title till 42, and I think that's more John Jones than anything else.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because he's just ridiculous. I think at the same time, I think maybe he's hitting his stride at 32. I think maybe this is he's on that trajectory, and I think he's ready for either a winner gets a spot in the top 15, or just a top 15 fighter, guy who's a ranked opponent. But I think Carlos Ulberg with a fantastic finish, blink and you missed a KO. He's my biggest stock riser.
And you know what? He was in. I was debating between him and Ian Gary, but I can't resist Ian Gary, man. This guy impressed me, like we mentioned, the entire night. Especially in Gary's last fight against Song. Ooh,
Kanan?
Song Kanan. Yes, I don't want to mispronounce it.
I read your notes. Don't worry.
All right, thank you. I'm not even reading my own notes.
Off the top of my head, don't you worry.
But Kanan knocked him down in the first round, and then Ian, he picked it back up in the second round and finished it. So from him to have that, I don't want to say sloppy performance because he ended up finishing, but I guess a slower start to just dominating a guy like Diva, like we mentioned before. Like really, he matured a lot in this fight, and he just showed the potential he has. And he's only 25 years old too. Like I don't think people understand how young that is to be a ranked fighter at that age.
And for his fight IQ, 25 years old to have that level of fight IQ,
it's insane.
It's very impressive. We've been shouting praises all show, and we're gonna continue.
Yes, we will.
But he's one of those prospects that I think is legit.
I think so
of
too.
guys, I think of guys being pushed by the UFC. I think obviously Connor's the company man, but you got to think of guys like Patty.
Patty.
Even back in the day, a guy that we're gonna preview his fight a little bit later in the show, Edmund Shabazny, and I don't know if you remember him. He's another one of those guys that was kind of pushed by the company. The young guy that looked like a young phenom. That ended up not really making, being as legit as we thought, and had a little bit of a stumble on the way. But Ian Gary, I could foresee him going undefeated and becoming a champion. Cause
you think he'll remain undefeated to the title shot?
I think he could. I think he's that good.
He could.
I really think he's that good, and I was just so impressed.
Yeah,
but,
I was too, man.
On the flip side, you gotta talk for the next one. Biggest stock fall. And we agree. Anthony Smith, Lionheart, 54 pro fights at 34 years old. Like, he's only 34 years old.
I looked that up the other day. I thought he was like 38 maybe.
Yeah.
34.
Yeah, he's young, but I mean, gosh, you look at his record, you wouldn't be able to tell. Like,
no.
It's ridiculous how many fights he's fought, and now he's lost his last two.
36 and 18 professional record.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
and
not...
you wrote as well 4 of 8 in his since that last title fight, which was a close fight against John Jones. But at 34 with 54 pro fights, it looks like he's just lost a step or two.
I agree. He with this loss and his previous loss to Ankalaev, I don't know. We need a miracle for him to have a career revival this late in his career.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
I don't see.
I see him becoming, not to say the next Masvidal, but we saw how Masvidal, after his devastating KO to Usman, how he lost to Colby. Lost to Gilbert. He just didn't have that same spark, as he mentioned in his post-fight interview, in the Octagon. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Smith's on his way out, another fight or two, and stick to the broadcasting, man, or commentating.
Yeah, he's great at that. I don't know if he's done any, in the booth calling the fights, but I know he's done a lot of analyst work, and he's one guy. He's very good. He's very good at what he does when it comes to the analysis. And his last wins, he had a 2-fight win streak prior to the 2-fight losing streak, but they were against Jimmy Crute and Ryan Spann, and those are two guys that, let's be honest, they're not top level competition.
They are not.
They're not. So when I'm looking at Anthony Lionheart Smith now, I can't see him as nothing more than a gatekeeper.
No, he's the gatekeeper. Honestly, might be generous because I don't know who I don't know who he's gonna fight and win in his next fight. He's going down, man, and it breaks my heart because I like him as a fighter and as an analyzer, but
yeah, and I mean, and it's tough to see these guys, and fighting's such a tough sport with that as well. Because I could see Lionheart fighting until he's 40, because he's one of those. I mean, and I don't want to see him fight until he's 40, but it's someone that I feel like he doesn't have any quit in him. And as we saw on Saturday night, his leg was battered, just destroyed, and he didn't quit. He literally at one point he tried to he was on the ground. He was trying to get Johnny Walker to go into his guard because he didn't want to get up on his leg because of how beat up it was. And that's the biggest tell of them all. If you don't even want to stand up on it.
Yeah.
But he's just such a competitor, and it's tough. You see even anywhere from the tippy top of MMA, UFC, obviously the most premier organization in the world for the sport, but just across all organizations and anywhere down from that top to the regional scene, it's just tough for fighters to just let it go. I
know it is,
and I think it's tough for all sports, but for some reason fighting, people always think they still got it.
I know.
So now let's go to finish of the night, and I'm gonna give that to Ian Gary. He called his shot, and it was just an overall striking masterclass. And he showed that he was levels above a top 15 fighter and veteran.
Yes.
In D-Rod. So, finish of the night. I mean, you could go Almeida. That's where you went.
I went Almeida just because the way he's dominated his fight has not changed. And against a guy like Rosenstreich, he was 10-0 in the UFC, and he's obviously had a little downfall recently.
Mm-hmm.
But Rosenstreich was ranked number 9 going into that fight. He's fought veterans like Ngannou and
bunch of guys. He's fought. He's fought pretty much everybody there is in that.
And he just dominated. It's
it's so impressive too that he knew the game plan going in.
Yes.
Ian Gary called his shot of what it was going to be, which is very impressive. But for guys like Almeida, and it reminds me, it's an easy example when you think of Khabib. of somebody who you know what he's going to do. You know he's going to take you down. Same thing with Almeida. You know he's going to take you down, yet you can't stop it. That's dominance.
Yes. And what's special about Almeida too,
dominance.
with his win against Rosenstruik, his professional record improves to 19-2 with 19 finishes.
Crazy.
19.
Wait, he's never gotten to a decision?
No. I think that was his 12th or 13th submission and 7 TKOs. Like, this guy is a stud.
He's legit. He's legit. Heavyweight division, you got to watch out.
I know.
And finally, to round off our 4 performance of the night bonuses here on the MMA on the Island podcast, we got fight of the night. And this one, there wasn't any, like, real, I feel like, 3-round to 5-round, like, scraps that were, like fantastic. So, me and Ada, we agree. Morano versus Means, it was a round 2 finish, but it was an exciting round 1.
It was.
And when you look at the prelims as well, I didn't see the early prelims, but I did see the most of the main prelims. Wasn't really any other fights. The fight with Cody Stateman was very well. I thought Cody Stateman won that fight. That's one thing.
Wasn't it a split decision? Or
it was. Yeah, I think it was a split decision, but I didn't agree with the decision because I was able to watch that whole fight, and I thought that Stateman did get the better of, I think it was D'Andrade. I think that was the last name of who he fought. But yeah, I thought Stateman won that fight, and that was a good competitive fight. So that was my probably second.
Okay.
But fight of the night, I mean, Moreno versus Means gave us 2 rounds of great action.
Yes. And I think the main card there was 4 finishes. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 4 finishes.
Yeah, 4 out of 5. I mean, so now to just give us overall big general takeaways for UFC Fight Night Charlotte, and I mean, when you look at this fight night, man, for it to be a fight night, it was such a special fight night.
It was,
and it's such a success, and for it to be sold out like that, I mean, UFC definitely got to go back to Charlotte, but they, you know what they got to do, honestly, Aodhan, and I'm a big fan. Shout out my boy Ariel Helwani.
I love Ariel.
Ariel's a great guy. I don't know how anyone could hate the man.
No.
You know, he stands by what he does, and he does have a great relationship with the president of the company, which he makes his living off of. But, you know, just for, you know, I think a fantastic journalist and someone I look up to. I think that using the Vegas, the Apex, that's what I was looking for, the Apex. Using the Apex, I thought, was great during COVID. And the fact that they were able to bring it back in that contained environment was fantastic. But now that we're not in the pandemic anymore, I feel like these Vegas cards, when you have a fight night with a crowd like in Charlotte, it brings a whole different energy, atmosphere. I think the fans obviously love it because they actually go to the events, and I think fighters can feed off that energy in the arena. So, I mean, I get it, convenience for Dana White and UFC, but UFC Charlotte is just another reason why they need to do more on-location.
Yes, and I think that was their first time. I could be getting the dates mixed up.
Yeah.
But I believe that was their first time fighting in Charlotte in 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and to come back to Charlotte and like 18,712 sold out, gate over 2 million. It was a successful card to say the least.
Yeah.
So I could see them going back to Charlotte in the very near future.
Exactly, and you know, I think of just next week. You know, we'll preview this a little bit. Durns versus Hill. Not that it's
I might need to send along to wake up to that.
Fight card. It's going to be a tough fight card for us fight fans to get through, but there's a lot of, you know, exciting young guys on the card, a lot of prospects. Those are the ones that are, those fight cards like that for the true MMA fans.
Yes.
So I'm not saying those fight cards where there's not a lot of high-profile names like there are on this one, to have it on location. So I'm fine with that one being in the Apex. But when you have guys that are, you know, high-caliber guys, you know, there was 3 fights in that fight card that were ranked fighters. You know, the top 3 were ranked fighters that were big, you know, they had big impact on each of the 3 divisions. So, you know, those type of fight cards, I don't want that in the Apex. I want fans in the arena. I want that because, I mean, at the end of the day, when you have fans in there, I mean, I get the advantage of the Apex. You get to see the fighters fight, you know, whatever. There's a couple, you know, and you hear every strike, you know, but I mean, it's just, and it's a smaller cage as well. I love the on location fight nights, and that's one of my takeaways. But another takeaway, Ian Gary, he will be a future champion. I will die on that hill. He will be a future champion one day. What I think he could personally has the potential to go on like a Conor McGregor-esque run where he just doesn't lose and then wins the title. But at the same time, I could see him being such a guy because of how young he is and how big, how how great his fight IQ
Yes,
is.
and you look at the top of that welterweight division, right? Chimaev, him and Kamaru, there's speculation that they might be fighting.
That's the fight to make.
That is the fight to make. Dana wasn't too happy about that. I think he said there's a stipulation where they'd have to fight at middleweight. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll talk more about that.
Because is Dana no longer trusting?
I don't know what's going on.
Welterweight?
Because what? Say that again.
Is he no longer trusting Chimaev to make welterweight?
No, I think he said he was going to give Chimaev another shot, but I don't know if he thinks that fight would, cause chaos in the division. I heard him say something like that.
That's silly.
Look at the top of the division, right? You got Leon's the champion, and then you got Kamaru. He's 35 years old. Colby, who's looking to fight Leon, hopefully by the end of this year. He's 35. Bilal's 34. Gilbert's 35. So these guys are older, older fighters. Gary being almost an entire decade younger than them. It could be his division for a while, and
yeah, absolutely.
I believe so.
Absolutely, he's the young gun in there. I don't think any of those guys would want to fight him.
No.
I mean, I don't think he's ready for that kind of level competition.
No.
I think the ideal scenario. He said 7 fights and he's on 5, so he thinks. That
No. So it was 7 starting with D-Rod.
Oh.
Yes. So
okay, I like that.
It's a very small, progression, but
I like that, which is why
that.
Neil Magny made I think the winner of Neil Magny versus
Eric Rowe.
Yeah, for Eric Rowe. I almost said Phil Haas. I got those two confused. But between him and Eric Rowe, I think the winner of that makes perfect sense. Then he gets a guy in that bottom level, that 11 to 15 range as the 15th ranked fighter.
Yes.
In the class. And then he moves up to maybe
Slowly.
someone in that top 8, But then, I like it. I like Gary's plan. And I think that by the time he does get that title shot, if his 7-fight plan goes well, I think he'll be well ready for it.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
yeah, by that point, he'd be what? He's 13-0, so 12-0 now, excuse me. 18-0, potentially, get ready for the title shot.
Yeah, I think 7 fights. If he wins 3, I think Dana's going to want to give him a really, a top 2 or 3 guy,
yes.
And then maybe, or title eliminator.
I think depends on how, his wins are spaced out. If he wins 3 in a row, he'll be fighting a top 5 guy.
And there's so many other factors like injuries and
Absolutely.
stuff like that all play into it. But next I want to go, Johnny Walker. Actually, you had one takeaway about Ian Gary as well. What was that?
Him being the closest thing to McGregor?
Yeah.
Yes, and I say that like I mentioned earlier, him being one of 2 active Irish UFC fighters. He doesn't have the talk that McGregor has.
No.
Frankly, nobody will ever have the talk McGregor has. You've seen the clip?
He's as good of a talker as he is a fighter, honestly.
Oh, he is. But you know what? Gary is starting to back his mouth up, and we saw that this past weekend.
Yeah.
And he won't be McGregor, but he definitely has the fighting skills, the IQ to be, I think, the closest thing to McGregor.
And confidence to it.
The confidence
is
too,
so
man.
Key. Confidence is so key.
It is.
But next, we talked about this a little bit, so we don't gotta get too much into it now. Johnny Walker's maturity and development, I think, is extremely encouraging, and I'm just happy that he's, as such a talented guy, it's really refreshing to see his growth and his development, because you don't really see, I feel, with a lot of these guys, some of these guys, they don't really develop. They're that same fighter, or whether they're just a one-trick pony where they're really good at stand-up, or boxing, kickboxing, whatever the case may be, or they're very good at, jiu-jitsu or something like that. But Walker was always a guy who was very, very exciting, very flashy, had very good stand-up. But he's, developed great wrestling defense, which we've seen in his last few fights. And he's obviously really matured in his striking and really honed in his skills. So I'm really excited to see.
I think Smith only landed 1 takedown on him on 3 or 4 attempts. So
I know,
the defense was there.
And Lionheart, that's something probably coming in that it was a game plan.
Yes.
Well, Johnny Walker down. Johnny Walker did not make it easy.
And it's so hard to take him down too. Walker being 6'6", 205. He has such a long frame for that weight class. So it's not easy taking him down.
Exactly. And that just makes it that much harder. But lastly, I want to go to the main event, and my biggest takeaway from that, Jailton Almeida is a bona fide stud, which we've talked at length about. But I think Jarino Rozenstruik, at this point of his career, is just a gatekeeper.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Rozenstruik losing 3 out of his last 4 fights. His only notable win, his only win is against Chris Daukaus. I don't even know if he's still fighting in the UFC. I don't know if he got cut, but he's ranked, I think, 15th.
Yeah.
So Rozenstruik, he's 35 years old as well, so he's slowly,
he's
going
on the
down.
decline. I can't see him. I mean, for his sake, and I think he's been a staple of that heavyweight division in that top 5-7 range for such a long time.
Yes.
Ideally, I hope Dana doesn't throw him too many of these more young guys like Almeida on the rise up, because it's tough, you know. Same thing with like Lionheart Smith, where they're guys that are like in the mix and they're good big names. So you want to give them like, you know, those and they're the perfect guys to set up for those young guys to test themselves. But you know, it's tough for Rosen to be like a guy like at this point in his career, Lionheart Smith and Rosenstruck, where you're just a gatekeeper in the division. It's tough, man. But I think that both those guys, I think they solidified themselves and made it very clear on Saturday night that that's really all that they have to offer. Unfortunately, that's all they're ever going to be at this point in their career.
I know it's tough. It's tough.
But the fight game's tough.
It is. That's an understatement.
Yeah.
But they're still dogs regardless.
Oh yeah. If you have the gall to step in a cage with another man with nothing but hands and feet.
No.
Yeah, you got my respect. I mean, all the way from the top to the bottom regional amateur fight.
These guys
I don't care. But yeah, and Aodhan, I want to give you one more. What was the biggest takeaway for you in that main event?
All right. You know, I don't know how many people watching this will agree, but I believe Almeida and Pavlovich is the fight to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen within a year, within 18 months. I think it could happen within a year. I think Almeida, with him being ranked number 9, maybe 1 or 2 more fights away from a title shot. And what's good about this matchup, right, is Pavlovich. He's such a phenomenal boxer, but we don't really see him do too much work on the mat, you know? And Almeida, all his work has been on the mat. So 2 completely different styles. That would match up perfectly. They're both hungry dogs. They're both on Almeida's on a 14-fight winning streak. Pavlovich, his only loss in the UFC is against Alistair Overeem in the first round. Actually, all of his fights have been in the first round. I don't know if you'd know that.
Really?
Pavlovich, all of his fights have been in the first round of the UFC.
First round finishes, and the only loss was
against Overeem.
Overeem?
Yep.
I love Alistair Overeem.
Oh, he's a dog. I think he just got caught for PEDs in Glory Kickboxing. Yeah, I guess some things never change.
I mean, listen, that man's been popping since.
Oh gosh,
since
dude.
Before, I don't even know, before me and you were alive.
Oh god.
Have you seen him like back before USADA like peak?
Bro, like pictures on the scale. Oh my.
Oh yeah, chiseled. Like I remember because I grew up in a family. My dad watched the sport. My uncle watched the sport. My uncle trained MMA for a long time. So I grew up around the sport a little bit. And as just fans, nothing more really. But I remember like when I would watch the fights with my dad, or I would see like the promotion and see freaking Alistair Overeem. He was immediately one of my favorite fighters at first, just because how brolic he was. Like he's just huge, and I just want to put a picture on the screen right now. Just look at that beautiful man.
Oh, he's
huge. It's ridiculous.
It is.
But
remember when him and Lesnar fought? Just two
monsters
going at it.
Two guys juicing to the
grills.
The absolute grill. They're juiced to the nines. They couldn't put any more syringes in their arms if they tried.
As the GOAT Chael Sonnen said, more juice than Tropicana.
I love Chael.
He is. He's the man.
I didn't even hear that one. That's great.
Yes. Oh, he's awesome.
That's great. And with that, we will be right back. But when we come back, it is time for our matchmaking. We're going to matchmake the whole main card, winners and losers. Who we think. We'll get that next. All right, y'all, we're back, and it is time to matchmake now. Play a little matchmaker. Every fight fan's dream, I feel, is to be a matchmaker.
Yes.
I mean, that has to be the best job in the world.
I think so.
And even for outside of MMA, just all sports, like being someone who makes schedules or someone who matchmakes. I feel like, but matchmaking though, it's such a beautiful thing. And I think with this fight card, I think they nailed it out of the water with the main card. But sometimes they don't, and I think that this fight card was one of those rare occasions where they nailed the matchmaking from just top to bottom.
Yeah, they did.
But let's talk about who we want to see next following what was a fantastic fight night at UFC Charlotte. And we'll go bottom up. So we'll go Moreno and Means. And we agree that Alex Moreno next. Gunnar Nelson would be a good fight.
He just finished Barberina, which we'll mention in a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nelson improved to 19-5 with that win. Moreno, as we mentioned, 23-8. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very good matchup potentially.
Yeah,
in the future.
and they're two guys that it's like they're kind of in a weird spot.
They are in a weird spot.
Like they're not like really close to, I'd say, the top 15, but they are.
Yeah, they're not that far off.
Yeah, I feel like those two guys would be like the winner of that fight would get a top 15 guy.
Yes.
I think that's clear. But with that, I think there's nothing more really to be said there. But for Tim Means, a guy we talked about a little bit, maybe retirement. But you brought a great idea because I thought originally we made this separately at different times. But my original thought was Tim Means versus either retirement.
Yeah, right.
Funny enough, fighting retirement. That's great. And I wrote it like that. But or a guy like Brian Barberina, who's again late in his career. But then you said double retirement.
Double retirement.
I love that.
I do as well. Means losing 3 fights, his last 3. Barberina, his last 3 fights, he beat Robbie Lawler, and Lawler was dominating him in the first round, and then he got, he slipped up in the second. Yeah. He got submitted against Dos Anjos, and then to lose to Gunnar Nelson, as we just mentioned. So,
yeah.
And Barberina, his record now is 18-10. So it's this late in his career. He's fought dogs like Covington, Dos Anjos, like we mentioned. I don't see him making a revival.
Yeah.
So they're both on their way out. I think that's a good way for both of them. Win or lose, they had a good career.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, if they don't want to retire, good on them. But
good on them.
I think it's, it's looming, and I think it makes for a great fight. Those fights, I mean, it's a rare occasion. There was one recently, a double retirement. I don't remember who it was.
I can't get their names.
Yeah, neither can I. The fans at home will tell us.
They will.
But yeah, but it's a special thing that doesn't happen too much in the sport, a double retirement, and I think it makes too much sense for those two guys. But on to the next one. I got Mr. Olberg. Facing a guy, Dustin Jacoby, somebody who's, also been a little bit on the rise. A guy who's not necessarily too young. I'm not sure exactly his age. I'll find that right now. But Justin Jacoby right now is only 35 years of age. So, he's a guy who's a veteran. He's been there for a while. And as somebody that it just makes sense for someone like Olberg. And again, very similar to that Moreno Gunnar Nelson fight, where it's like the winner could be in contention for that for a top 15,
yes.
Or could call out a top 15 guy and likely get it. So I think that makes sense.
That's a good matchup too. Jacoby being ranked 15th. I like Crute as a matchup next, only because, and we watched this fight together at your uncle's house.
Yeah.
Crute fought Alonzo Manfield, and that fight ended up being a majority draw, I believe.
Yeah.
And Crute would have lost that fight if. I don't know what Manfield got hit with in the second round.
It was a point deduction of some
It was
sort.
something.
I don't know
if that
it was
deduction hadn't happened,
yeah.
if it didn't happen, Mansfield would have won that fight, and he would have been in the ranking. So I think
jacked.
Good God, he's another one. Yeah. He is another one. So I think that'd be a good fight for Crute, to see if he's still worthy of being in the top 15.
Yeah.
Alberg, on the steady rise. So
no, I like that. I like that matchup as well. And for the loser, Potiera, I gave him Tyson Pedro, another guy who's on a little bit of a losing streak as well. So it just makes sense. I feel like that's not always the case, but two guys coming off a loss, it makes for, I don't know if it makes for a better fight, but it just makes for a fight that makes more sense.
It does.
Because it's two guys that they're must win. Because in a sport like MMA, it's not like where like a sport like football where you can lose 4 straight games and still make the playoffs.
No, it's not like that. You lose 4 straight fights.
You lose 4 straight fights, you might not even be in the
You might be looking at a
anymore.
different profession. So
yeah, exactly. Different profession, or at least fighting for a different organization.
Yes.
So it's like, for fighting it's tough. So you give 2 of those guys a loss, one of them got to bounce back with a win. I like that matchup.
Yes.
But you got a matchup. I love the guy that you won.
Potiera and Cutelaba. The thing with Cutelaba, right? He had a lot of hype going into his UFC career.
Yeah.
He just recently picked up a win against Tanner Bowser. He knocked him out in the first. But then prior to that, though, he lost. Forgive me, Kennedy Nijul. I'm not even gonna try. But he got knocked. TKO by him. Johnny Walker submitted him, and then Ryan Spann submitted him. So he was on a very recent losing skid. Like both of those guys coming off a loss, I think that match makes perfect for one of them to get their get back. So we'll see what happens. I think I
love Cutelaba though. He's a guy.
He's another one. I like him.
He's somebody that it's instant fireworks.
It is.
No matter who he's fighting, when he's fighting, I can count on Ian Cutelaba to give me.
And you remember his ceremonial weigh-in antics? One time he was dressed up as the Hulk. He's screaming in their face.
Yeah, scream the guy's
face.
He's
unique.
Yeah, he's a wild bill. He's a wild bill. I don't remember who he's fighting that time, but regardless, I love Ian Cutelaba, and Potiera would be a great matchup with him. 2 guys that like to stand.
Yes.
But for Ian Gary, I think it only makes sense because coming into this, you actually informed me of something. I didn't know Neil Magny was fighting in June.
Yeah.
Against
the Orlando card actually, June 24th.
Yeah,
it's
so
actually
I think
a good card.
he fights the winner of that fight.
I think Magny's gonna win that just because I'm telling you, Magny is, not to say he's inconsistent, but he'll win that fight, and I think Gary will take care of him.
Yeah, yeah, he is that we talk about gatekeepers a lot today.
He's the epitome of a gatekeeper.
He's the epitome of a gatekeeper. Like it is through and through. He's if you want to figure out if a contender is good, you throw Neil Magny at him. You're like Neil, take him, we'll
see.
If you get knocked out, then the kid's actually
whatever.
good. But if you find a way to pull through with a decision, I feel like Neil Magny's kind of a decision merchant. But
and Neil Magny actually, quick random fact, he has I think the most wins in UFC welterweight history with 20. That win against D-Rod was number 20. So he's been around.
Yeah, but he's a vet, man. He's a vet, but he's one of those vets. It's just some people just can't figure him out.
I know.
It's tough.
He's
a test, which is why I think he's perfect for Ian Gary to fight next.
Yes.
But you got a guy. I like who you got.
Let's see. I like Michael Chiesca only because Chiesca hasn't fought. I believe his last fight was against. Was it Luque? If I might have to fact check that.
It could be.
Double check on that. But Chiesca was supposed to fight Li Jingliang. I think in April that fight got canceled. Chiesca being ranked number 12, behind Magny being ranked number 11. That's still bottom of the top 15 fight to be the second fight part of his 7-fight plan to a title shot. So I think Chiesca Magny 11-12 spot. Both of those fights would be ideal for Gary.
They both make sense. And just to fact check you, he did lose to Luque.
It was Luque,
right? But after that, and just this past, it's been a.
He's been out for a while.
2021. He's been out for a minute.
His last fight was in 21.
But it was in 21. But he did lose to Sean Brady via decision. Sean Brady,
that's right.
Guy that I like.
Oh, Brady. Oh, he's fighting Jack Della Maddalena.
That's
gonna be a good fight.
That is when we talk about matchmaking earlier. That is perfect matchmaking.
It is the 9th ranked against the 13th ranked.
Fantastic. Another New Zealand guy. And
the way he took care of Randy Brown too, man.
Man, I was thoroughly impressed.
So
and for D-Rod, I think it's very ironic who we picked. For me, I got Santiago Ponzinibbio is coming off of that knockout loss to Kevin Holland. And speak of the devil.
Now, I chose Holland, right? Because now Holland, he started off at the welterweight division with 2 straight wins. And then he lost to Thompson, and he lost to Chimaev. So he got the 3rd-ranked guy and the 6th-ranked guy. So he got his fair shot at the top of the welterweight division. Mm-hmm. He's easily a top 15-ranked caliber fighter.
Absolutely.
I think he needs one more fight, and then he should, get his rifle shot at the top 15 again. Holland's a stud, but easing back into it a little more, So
I think
I like that matchup.
He's very, Kevin Holland. He's very well rounded, and he's a
guy
that I love him personally. I know he's one of those I don't know controversial, but some people I've found
hate him or love him type of thing.
Yeah, hate him or love him type of thing, and I don't understand why anyone could hate Kevin Holland. I mean, what is?
Well, Dana White hated him originally.
Yeah,
the Dana White Contender Series. He didn't like Holland because he just wouldn't shut up, which you could understand from a promoter standpoint, like God.
Yeah, but at the same time, you want guys like that.
I know.
Think about the most popular fighters in the world are the ones that run their mouth.
I know, but it wasn't a Contender Series, and he didn't even finish the guy. It was a decision.
Yeah.
So, I guess time and place.
I know, but I mean, he's such a goon. I love Kevin Holland.
He is.
And I don't want to go off too far, but did you see Kevin Holland when he was he went on this stretch where he kept saving people, where he was it was weird. He would one thing I watched that he. There was a guy trying to rob a restaurant he was at, and then he ended up, beating him up and stopping him. He had a gun.
Get out of here!
Yeah,
I never heard of that.
Yeah, no, and then it happened again, and he was and he was joking around, calling himself Black Superman or whatever.
Dude, he's the hero we didn't want.
It's just
didn't know we needed.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that I think most people that do talk on the mic and talk shit in UFC are it's a facade. I think that's the right word I'm looking for. Just act. And,
yes.
That's the easier way to say it. But I think him, he's just a stand-up dude. And I think that's just the way he is.
He is.
But a fight with D-Rod, that'd be great. I like that.
Yeah.
Ponzinibbio, Holland, I think either one is a great matchup because it would just be straight.
Now I'm thinking about it, I think Ponzinibbio would probably be a little more ideal. But
ideal, yeah. I think Holland deserves better than D-Rod personally.
Yes.
I think he's coming off a win, right? Who do you fight?
Holland just.
Oh, yeah, Ponzinibbio. What am I?
Oh yeah, my gosh, I
talked
throwing a
about
brain
this.
for it.
Yeah, first is Japan. Now I'm saying things 2 minutes ago that I'm forgetting now.
It's all right.
But let's move on. Let's talk Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker.
I think at this point, and I really like this matchup against Aodhan. I think that Johnny Walker is the perfect guy to welcome Max Pereira to the light heavyweight
both from Brazil
division.
too.
Both from
Maybe
Brazil.
Brazil card. We'll
And
see.
I mean, yeah, get them on a card in Brazil. They could be the co-main. Easy. Like you make that match with co-main, done, and then you put a title fight in the main event. Is there any Brazilian champions right now that they could throw in there?
Oof.
I don't think so.
There is not.
Yeah, surprising.
There's like 3 Mexican champions, but I'm not going to confuse my countries.
Yeah.
But no, there's
unlike
no...
me. Yeah. let's leave one of us that's confused countries tonight. But him versus Aodhan makes too much sense. It would be a great striking matchup. And with the way Johnny Walker has developed his striking game, I think he does actually. I mean, I think Pereira would.
I think Pereira would take care of business.
I think he'd take care of him, but I think Johnny Walker, with this point in his career, I'm confident to say that he'd at least put up a good fight. And I think it'd be a good fight.
I think so too.
I think he'd get
the
finished,
problem
maybe,
with Pereira though is, Pereira is a phenomenal kickboxer. But as we saw in his most recent fight, what is he likes to keep his hands down. He leaves his face so exposed.
Low. He leaves. You can't even see my hand. This is a normal fighter.
Exactly.
He leaves his hand so low. You can't even see him with this shot right now. Like
no,
it's
you
like,
can't.
Yeah, like he fights like down here. But I mean, it works, and
it does.
You see that a lot
does.
in MMA, which is something that when training, a lot of people that I've spoken to just in the general MMA community, like I don't know how these elite fighters, and it's just because they're so elite, get away with putting their hands so low, because it's like your face is wide open. If you're fighting somebody and their hands are like here, you're like, yo, if I hit,
it's over.
If I just get that, if I can connect, I mean, his hands are not.
You're going to sleep.
Yeah, but I think Aodhan might take some time off, so and
we'll see. Yeah.
So I think
because with the win against Walker, like we mentioned earlier, Walker being on the rise, he's going to take that 5th ranked spot.
Yeah.
We could see if Hill takes care of business this summer against Prochazka. I could see a Hill Aodhan matchup, especially Hill beating Glover in January. So it's kind of like his predecessor, if I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
So that would be a good fight if Aodhan takes care of business. But we'll see what happens. I also said Blachowicz as well. I like that Blachowicz matchup. Blachowicz being ranked 3rd. Blachowicz is 40 years old. So I don't know if he's going to get a title fight anytime soon. I think he needs a couple wins for that. But yeah, Walker going against a veteran like Blachowicz, former champion. That's is it on? Okay. Yeah. So I like both of those matchups, honestly. Walker doesn't deserve to be fighting down to the rankings right now.
No. He's definitely somebody who deserves, at the very least, to be fighting at the top. And
yes.
I think that it's well deserved, especially after such a technical win.
Yes.
And but on the flip side, for somebody like Anthony Smith, I think I would like to see him go back to a guy like Craig. It's Paul Craig, yes?
It is Paul Craig.
It's Paul Craig. Okay, I was a little unsure, but Paul Craig, he's a guy. He's he's a specialist on the ground. He'll submit you at heel hooks. He's one of those guys, those grapplers where it's like he wins in like those corny ways.
He
Kind
does.
of like heel
it's
hook
so weird with
ankle
Craig.
Kick, ankle lock, not ankle pick.
No,
ankle
I know.
Lock, but yeah, you know what I'm saying.
It's so weird with Craig. He's the only guy. It's crazy, right? Because Walker just finished Craig not too long ago.
Yeah.
Craig finished Hill, his only professional loss, and he finished Ankalaev, that's his only professional loss. So he's fighting these championship level fighters, knocking them out, and he's losing to
bums.
Exactly.
Bums.
It just does not make sense.
I think that's a good fight for Lionheart. One that he should get back in the win column with, and or at least be a more competitive fight. I think that's really where his career stands. But
yes,
at the end of the day, I don't think he has any intention of hanging him up. That wasn't the impression I got post fight. But I think that it's a good fight for him. Both guys been in the organization for a long time. It just makes sense in my opinion.
Does. I'm gonna sound like a complete casual for saying this. I have Smith potentially fighting. I'm gonna say his name wrong. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Azamat Mirzakhanov. He's ranked number 11th right now in the.
Did I see that name?
Dude.
Azama Mercanov?
Nah, bro.
That's a wild
This
name.
is another language.
I'm not gonna lie. This is a casual moment.
It's an extremely casual moment. But I was looking at the rankings. I never heard this guy. He's 13-0, 9 wins by knockout. His last win is against Dustin Jacoby.
You're gonna feed Lionheart Smith another killer.
Okay, well here's the thing. I don't think Smith should. He obviously doesn't deserve to fight up, right?
Yeah.
So, but how far down is he gonna go? I think that Smith being ranked 7th right now, this guy being ranked 11th. This guy's undefeated, so he's on the rise. I think, is it good for Lionheart to be fed to him? Probably not. But this would be a good test for Murzakanov. So we'll see if that happens. We'll see if Smith takes it.
I mean, listen, that would be him fighting another killer, because I've never seen that man. I haven't even heard of him.
I know.
Murzakanov, but kind of a guy that went under the radar.
He did.
Because what is he? He's 9th.
Who?
In the UFC?
Murzakanov?
Yeah, Murzakanov.
He's ranked 11th.
11th, yeah. So, I mean, that honestly just proves our point even further about the light heavyweight division.
Man.
So top heavy, because if me and you don't know the 11th guy in the division, that's how you know that division's weak.
And I memorize the shit.
And now to go to Almeida, I like him versus Spivak. I think it makes a lot of sense. Both guys now in that top 5, and it also a guy who's very much on the rise and doesn't have a fight right now. So I think throw those two guys together, and that could be a potential, I wouldn't say title eliminator, but like second fight before.
Yes, I could see that. Well, Spivak, his most recent win being against Derek Lewis.
Yeah.
The reason I don't know about that fight is because they're both ranked number 8 and number 9, so the rankings are very close to each other. But like you said, that could be a potential fight before title eliminator. So that would be a good fight. I have, let's see, who did we for
Razor.
Yes, against Razor Blades. I like that fight a lot. Blades is always fighting these top guys, these guys high in the rankings. I think it's time he fights a little lower. Both being, wrestlers, not to say they're not good with their hands, but a lot more ground-oriented fighters. Mm-hmm. That would be a true test to see where Almeida stands in the heavyweight division. If
Almeida's able to do to Curtis Blades what he did to Junior Rosenstruck this past weekend,
you can't deny him. I'm not denying him at all now.
You can't deny him because at least Rosenstruck, he was always he's a very well-rounded fighter. I don't think his wrestling is bad by any means.
No.
But it's not on the level as Curtis Blades. So if he's able to do what he did to Curtis Blades, that would be scary. But I like that. I like that matchup. I would be fine with either.
Because I don't see, if Almeida, he keeps winning like he does, I don't see him being, any more than 2, maybe 3 fights away from a title shot. So with a win over Razor Blades, who's ranked 4th right now, that could set him up for a title shot with, I'm being a little optimistic here, against Pavlovich. Maybe in the near future, because as we know, Jones is rumored to be fighting Miocic hopefully sometime this year. Mm-hmm. That could be a double retirement with Miocic losing.
Yeah. So then this heavyweight division with that could open up like crazy.
It could.
And then it leaves room for like a Pavlovich Almeida, if Almeida is able to get past his next opponent, whoever that may be. Title fight, honestly, mm-hmm. for the vacant belt. So I think with the state of the heavyweight division right now, I mean, it's it's gonna get to the point where it's like, all right, who's gonna be stepping up, and Almeida and Pavlovich, it seems like for right now, for the foreseeable future, looks like that they're the future of that division.
Almeida called out. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Almeida called out Tuivasa. Tuivasa is a fun fighter to watch. I think Almeida dogs him, and I don't think Tuivasa's taking that fight personally.
Oh no,
he's not.
I mean, if I'm Tuivasa's team, I don't want him anywhere near that.
Absolutely not.
I don't even want to be within 5 to 10 feet of him.
I don't right now.
Yeah. Like if Jonathan Almeida was in the same room, I'd be like,
he could take everything.
Sir, do you need anything? There's water,
Please.
Anything like that. I don't even know if does he speak English?
I don't think so.
Yeah, but like either way, I'll have a translator.
Exactly. We'll figure it out.
I'll be like, sir, I come in peace. Don't hurt me.
Don't hurt. But if he wants to, we're done. We're dead men walking.
Yeah, literally. But now, to wrap it up, Rosenstrike. I like him versus the Aspinall loser, which is I think in June. I think early June. Those two are fighting.
Oh, I think they're
Or is it-
UFC fight card in London. That's supposed to be in August. I think.
August?
Yeah, it's
It's that long.
sometime in the summer. Yeah.
Okay, well I think
July,
Rosenstrike does need a little bit of a break.
He does,
anyway.
'cause Arsenal-
I know it was in London. I thought it was June for some reason. August. Okay.
No,
But
it's somewhere there. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I could be wrong.
I'm sure. But I like him fighting the loser. I don't think obviously he doesn't deserve the winner of that. 'Cause I think the winner
Definitely
of that does go on to fight, top 7, top 5 competition.
Mhm.
That's not where Rosenstrike will be. But I think it would be a good bounce back fight for both, whoever ends up losing that fight, whether it's Aspinall, which I really have high hopes for. I hope he recover from that knee injury well.
Against Blades.
That was
I think a year ago.
devastating.
That was bad. That was like
Yeah.
15 seconds into the fight, man.
Yeah, it's like he didn't even get to fight,
I know.
Like he was headlining the card too, but glad the UFC was able to get him back and fight a killer like Tabarro, who's going to make for an interesting fight. But I think the loser of that fight, Rosenstrike, I think would be good.
I like that too.
Another fight where it's like 2 guys off losses.
Yeah.
Which has become a little bit of a trend here with our matchups.
I know.
But
it makes sense though. I mean, you can't deny.
Of course, yeah. It makes sense, but. I like that fight, and I like the fight you got.
And I think this. If I think a fight will happen, it's going to be this: Rosenstrike and Lewis. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, they both have only won one of their last 4 fights, and ironically enough, it's against the same opponent, Chris Daukaus.
Really?
I swear to God.
That's funny.
That is,
That's
so.
Great.
Let's see. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Lewis, he lost to Pavlovich. He lost to Spivak. And he lost to Tuivasa. And Almeida dominating Rosenstrike the way he did, losing to Blades. They're both not making a title run anytime soon, if they ever do. Mm-hmm. So I think 2 dogs, 2 very striking-oriented fighters. I think, and they'll be the 11th and 12th ranked fighter. Lewis is at 11, and then probably tomorrow when the rankings come out, Rosenstrike will take Almeida's previous place at 12. I think that's a good and exciting matchup to make. Yeah,
and 2 guys that are like staples of the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
So I could very well see. And the UFC, for whatever reason, despite the fact that heavyweight is such a what's the best way to put this? Not deep. It's a very shallow division. And I think that but they love putting them on headliners. They love headlining with heavyweights, and I think that's just, I guess that appeals to the audience. I think the audience likes heavyweights. So they think, heavyweights, they just stand and bang.
Yeah.
But I mean, the sport has evolved so much from that. But I think they like putting heavyweights for whatever reason as the main event. So I mean, I think Rosenstrike and Derek Lewis. Now that you said it out loud, honestly, I like that better than what I had. I think that makes sense. I think they could do it sooner rather than later. I think for my situation, you'd have to wait till like end of the year, like December, November, and that would even be asking one of those 2 guys to go for a quick return fight. But if Rosenstrike wants a quick turnaround, and Derek Lewis is still interested in fighting, I love the Black Beast. It was really sad to see kind of his downfall at this point in his career, but it would be a good bounce. I think it's a good bounce back spot for both those guys.
I think, we'll see. I think if Lewis loses that fight, that would be his 4th in a row. I could see a retirement, man. He's been in this game for so long.
If he does lose, I think his next loss should be his last fight, or at least one of the last one. I mean, granted, in a sport like MMA, it's hard to end on a positive note and end on a win. But if he's able to get past Rosenstrike, maybe he fights more, maybe he retires. I think either way, it would be good for him. He's kind of on the back end of his career, especially after the dominating performance that was his loss in the title fight to interim title fight, right?
Against Cyril Gane?
Yeah, Cyril Gane, an interim title fight. Ever since then, he hasn't been the same.
No, he has not. He has not.
Yeah, the Tuivasa loss really.
It's crazy.
That one broke my heart because he's one of my favorites, top 5, at least top 5.
Lewis or Tuivasa?
The Derek Lewis.
Lewis.
The Black Beast. Yeah, I mean I love Tuivasa too, but
no,
Derek Lewis has a special place in my heart. That one clip where it's like. I watched that live too, and I was crying. It was like my balls was hot. I know. Great. It doesn't get better.
You saw when he knocked out Volkov, and he was like, Donald Trump called me, telling me I had to knock this Russian motherfucker out.
Yeah.
No, he's too much.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, he's the best. He's the best. It doesn't really get better. There's very few personalities in the UFC and the MMA in general. Like Derek Lewis, and he's somebody that in the back end of his career breaks my heart, but he will be missed.
He will be missed. Absolutely.
But, that rounds out our matchmaking. Let us know how you did. If you have any suggestions on who
Please.
you think should be fighting, let us know.
Let us know.
Because your opinion's just as good as mine. At the end of the day, we're just two guys who love the sport. So
Yeah.
we don't know any more than you do. At the end of the day, I mean, maybe we do.
Maybe we do.
We'll,
Just a little bit more.
When it gets to the point where we got enough fans on the show, maybe we'll have a little trivia contest.
Exactly.
Type of thing. Be like test hours. We'll test hours one day. Maybe we can even do that next week.
I like that idea, Joe.
Dern and Hill. I mean, I don't know how much. We're definitely not going to talk for an hour about that conflict.
I can wrap that up in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to be good on that because, spoiler alert, it will go to a decision. That's one of my bets for this weekend.
I like that,
we'll get into that. Before that, I want to go back to UFC 288 a little bit. We wanted to start the podcast last week, and it would have been a nice place to start. But, due to various circumstances, we still both had school at the time. So, it's a little tough now that we're both getting out of school, getting in the summertime. Semester's over. We got a lot more time now, so you'll be seeing us every week. So get used to these two beautiful faces.
Get used to it.
But let's talk about, some of the major headlines. And let's start with UFC 288. Aljo Cejudo. I think that was the first win in Aljamain Sterling's championship career where it was decisive and it was dominant. And I feel like, what can people say about it?
Even if people are always going to say something. They're always running their mouth.
But I mean, but for people who actually understand the sport, what are they going to say?
And Aljo has a special place in my heart. Being from Long Island, wrestling at SUNY Cortland.
Yeah.
This guy is a local stud. Well, not even local. He's the best fighter in the world at 135 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, that might be up for debate, but
right.
You can't deny that he's champion right now, and
at least the best fighter in the UFC at that weight class.
I would agree.
Right now, you can't
deny that. But you gotta take your hat off to Cejudo. A 3-year layoff, coming back, losing a split decision to the current champion. You don't think so? Some people thought it should have been 49-46, Aljo. I like 48-47.
I had 48-47, and I know Sean O'Malley, who actually was they actually got him in the arena post-fight, just a little face-off with Aljo. So that's going to be the next fight, and that's going to be a great fight, I feel, if Sugar Sean can avoid getting backpacked, which is going to be easier said than done, because Aljamain Sterling's just wrestling is out of this world. For him to be able to take down a gold medalist wrestler, granted,
youngest Olympic medalist too, at 21 years old, he won that crap.
Crazy,
that medal,
crazy. He calls himself Triple C for a reason. And as corny as he is, an elite wrestler.
I love the corniness. Bring it on, Triple C. I love it.
You're a stickler for corny.
I'm the stickler for corny. Him, Usman.
I can't stand Usman.
Oh my goodness.
When we talk Kamaru Usman, I'm going to clown it. I can't. He's a great fighter, all-time great fighter. I can't stand that man. He pisses me off. Everything he posts on social media, you always be sending me that.
I do. I can't help it.
He'll be in the car just like.
It's so stupid.
But anyone else, I'm fine with. When I see his stupid ass face, I'm like, shut up.
Oh my God, it's such an ugly mug. But he is top the welterweight of all time, so we could do what he pleases when he pleases. But you gotta give him credit due.
But Sue's another guy where his corniness doesn't bother me as much. Probably because I don't see it as much, thanks to you. You don't be sending me Henry Cejudo stuff, but you'll be sending me Usman every other day.
It's not ending till he
when
retires.
He posts some stupid shit. But Cejudo, a guy came back, honestly, and performed well. Don't think he deserved the win at all.
No.
I think that most fight fans would agree that split was not the answer. It was definitely
no. And actually, as you brought up Sugar Sean before, originally he had thought that Cejudo won that fight, but then watching it back, he tweeted out he thought it was a clear 4-1 to Aljo.
Yeah,
so,
which is and it's an interesting thing too, and I think something that nobody's talking about, and I'd like to actually talk about that for a second, because I haven't seen this anywhere, is when Sugar Sean, tweeted that, fight fans were like, okay, most of us would agree, because again, 99% of us watched it on our TVs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it brings a good point, and people always like to crap on the judging. The judges are watching it live.
Yeah.
And as Sugar Sean thought Cejudo won that fight live, he watched it live. So if he was scoring that fight live, he thought Cejudo won.
Yeah.
When it was very clear to the audience at home that he did not do so. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. So people like to crap, and I'll crap on the judging. The officiating, I know there was, and we talked about that statement decision, but outside of that, I thought the officiating, not the officiating. Officiating's mostly, 99% of the time great. with the UFC. They got a lot of great guys there, but the judging rather.
The judging. Oh yes. The officiating.
You know,
good. The judging.
The officiating. Yeah,
No, the officiating's good. I can.
The officiating. Yeah, the officiating is okay. The judging, on the other hand, has been and continues to be brutal. They did it right in UFC Charlotte, but at the same time, you got to think from their perspective. Maybe it did look different. You know, maybe the fight did look different, and it's interesting. So it's something where when you think of judging, it's something that counteract that point where it's like, well, these guys are watching it live, and that's a completely different perspective.
It is. They're
That's
right
not
in front
something
of
that people talk about. And for Sugar Sean to tweet something like that, it's only furthers the case that, it's easier said than done. Everyone thinks, oh, I can judge a fight. It's not that easy.
It is not that easy. These guys do it for a living.
Especially when you look at the criteria and.
Well, I think they just changed the criteria recently. They were focusing a lot on control time. I think now they're focusing more on damage rather than essentially volume.
And I think that that's the right decision.
I think so too,
It pisses me off so much when you see guys just lay on top of somebody for a round or even like let's say for the first 2.5 minutes, for example, a fighter is piecing them up on the feet, and then that fighter gets taken down and is laid on, and then that round's like a coin flip. No way.
No.
If the guy doesn't do anything with the top position, then that shouldn't really count for much. Granted, it's control time, so like if he's laying on for all 5 minutes, you give him the round. You can't give the guy round to the guy in his back because he couldn't get up. But like if it's a close round, and the only difference is like maybe and one guy like or maybe you think's gonna have the edge, and then one guy was like had some control time. I like that. I like that direction where judging is going. And I think there's some people have a lot of issues with with it. And I know, shout out Verdict MMA. Do you know what Verdict MMA is?
Oh, with the Twitter, right? When
yes. So
yes.
It's an app, and people have like a global scorecard, so everybody scores the fight.
Yes, I like that too.
I'm a big fan of that. I don't know if I would want it to be up to a global consensus in terms of like who wins the fight.
That'd be too much bias.
But that'd be too much because then there's so many factors that go into it. But something like that, it begs the question, what could the future of judging be? And that's something we could talk about another day. We could honestly have a whole episode just about judging. But
that'd be good for matchmaking, honestly.
What?
The Verdict, if they use that for like matchmaking to see what the fans want.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, not a bad idea. Verdict, if you hear that, put us on your team.
Put us on.
Put us on. We could be the official podcast of Verdict MMA.
Oh gosh.
Great organization there. I think they're doing great stuff. I've been actually following them for a long time since they just the beginning. They got a partnership with PFL now, which is a big organization.
They're buying up Bellator too.
But back to Aljo. I think Fighting Sugar Sean, they're targeting August, and Aljo was on the MMA Hour podcast with Hawani today. Said a lot of interesting things. It said that the UFC is targeting August for him and Sugar Sean, which would be a quick turnaround. But Aljo said if he does fight in August, he would have to start training next week.
Really?
He said. And
Aljo is getting a little plump himself. Did you see the video of him? He was eating pasta, weighing himself to that. 169 pounds, 34 pounds. He shot up right away.
I mean,
Baby Jamal Hill.
Yeah, honestly, but I mean, it's such a crazy thing with fighters though, like how much they can gain weight like that.
I know.
And I think we'll talk more about Merab later. But one thing I want to go back to Aljo on the MMA Hour. He had something very interesting that, unfortunately, with the timing of when we record every Monday, and looking to release Wednesday or Thursday. We'll get that consistently down. But regardless, tomorrow, which would be Tuesday, May 16th, only 20 minutes from tomorrow. We're filming late tonight. We're going late.
It's all right.
It's all good. By the time it's going to be the day up, by the time we wrap things up here.
I know.
But Aljo has something interesting to say. Francis Ngannou is, for those of you who don't know, is announcing something Tuesday, May 16th, and it's likely, and Ariel Helwani, in his own words, said it's the worst kept secret in the MMA community.
I agree.
It was kept pretty secret to me. Do you know where he's going? Because he's signing to an organization tomorrow.
I could see the PFL, but I know one recently rejected him after they were talking for like hours, and the president, they couldn't come up with a they couldn't negotiate on a contract.
Mm-hmm.
See, the thing with Ngannou is like his last fight was against Gane in February of last year, so 15, 16 months removed. His stock is going down as the time goes on. So it's like, how could you be asking for more money as your stock's going down. Everybody wanted to see him and Jones. That fight could have sold $2 million.
Oh my goodness, that fight. That's one thing. That's like one of the things. Like,
a what
Dana,
if.
you couldn't just get one more fight out of Ngannou. You know, just say Ngannou, come back, come collect this absolutely crazy payday, and win or loss, you can leave and do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Because what Ngannou, and I want to play the clip. We'll play it after what I say here quick. What Ngannou is really pushing for is he's pushing. It's not. He says over and over again, and you'll see in the clip where Francis, his stickler, it hasn't been about the money. He was offered $20 million by the one championship.
For $20 million?
$20 million, yeah, $20 million contract that he turned down. And you know, and there was all these rumors about him wanting like some clauses or a seat on like the board of like like the organization. But I mean, all those things. I think. How true are they? I don't know. I think the organizations are upset they didn't get him, so they're just crapping on him because that's like it's a popular thing to do. If you don't get a fighter, same way Dana White's just been crapping on him as well. If you don't get the fighter, you don't get to agree to a deal, then you're like, oh well, we don't need that guy anyway.
Yeah,
but
no.
In reality,
right.
He's a huge superstar.
He is.
But I think Aljamain started made some interesting points about Francis, so let's hear what he had to say.
What do you make of this Francis stuff?
So he's supposed to make a release tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow's the big day.
Looking forward to seeing what this is. I hope it's worth it. So here's my thing.
Okay.
If I could offer Francis advice.
Please. This is great because you were once in a position similar to this. Obviously, you weren't the champion at the time, but you were deciding,
And I respect everything he's standing for and trying to do. But there's a reason why it's never been done. And I'm not trying to shoot anybody down or be negative about anything. But the amount of money I feel like he could have made, or at least from what they said over at was it one?
Well, which one? Which one are you talking about? Oh, the $20 million?
Chatri,
yeah.
If that was a real offer, my thing is like, well, why not take the money and almost take like a Floyd Mayweather approach and build your own organization and have like another avenue of competition for the fighters to go somewhere and compete, to showcase their skills where you can now dictate and control. Because now if you're doing this in such a favorable way, I feel like it's easily going to attract other up-and-comers and to the point where it can start to become like a premier organization. Not saying compete with the UFC, but it gives you another option to go to. And that's the way I was kind of looking at that. I'm like, dude, that's some serious money to use and to network with. But the whole thing about like trying to be on the board and I don't know the details.
Yeah, not all of that is 100% though.
Yeah, so I don't know.
You know what happened there, right? What happened there was
they're trying to get in front of it, and
yes, that's like me.
Take that $20 million and run. That's my thought. Like, especially who's he gonna fight over there? They do go crush a couple people, come back. Francis, you're still the man. You made a shit ton of money.
It's not 20 up front. It's 20 for the
throughout the fights.
Yeah. So like, what if he gets slip on a banana peel? Does he still get? Is that guaranteed money?
We see those are the things we don't know from behind the scenes.
It's never guaranteed.
Yes.
You don't get guaranteed. If you don't fight, you don't get paid.
Exactly.
No fighter gets guaranteed. What I heard was the deal he signed is very lucrative. It's like the worst kept secret where he's going. The question is, I think what people are going to criticize is, all right, so you left the UFC for this. I still feel like we don't know the full story about what he has planned, because boxing was always the big thing, right? Yeah. Boxing was always a big thing, and people bring up the money all the time, but he has said repeatedly it's not about the money.
Yeah.
So like what's big for him may not be big for this guy, you, me. And so I found it, what I wanted to like ask you about was, it feels like everyone's kind of like rooting to say, oh, you fucked up. You fucked up. Like they want to celebrate that he fucked up. Why is that?
It's weird, man. Yeah, sometimes it's like some crab in the barrel ass mentality type shit. It really is. Fighters could be their own biggest.
This is why there'll never be a union.
That's why there will never be a union.
Right.
Fighters are, again, you can hate me all you want, but it's some crab in the barrel motherfuckers. I even had people at the gym I was training at. I was training down in Vegas. I had people talking shit about me behind my back with the first Jan fight. People I've trained with. People whose asses I kicked in the gym were talking about shit. So I can only imagine for him and the stuff people are saying behind closed doors is like, for me, I hope to see Francis win, whether that's financially or outside of financial. I want to see all fighters do well.
Yeah, so Aodhan made a lot of great points earlier today on the MMA Hour. I really liked, what he said about the fact that, Francis Ngannou, he brought up the point that he's asking for all these things when, Aljo, and it was something I never really thought of until he brought it up, saying that, he's asking for all these things, but if he was Francis, why not, and we'll see about this big announcement tomorrow, and where he ends up signing. But you know, if he could take these big deals and then maybe work his way to you know, making his own organization where he could do things as he sees fit with all of the money that he would get from a huge contract that he would get. And that's an ideal world that, you know, we don't live in an ideal world, as everybody knows. So that was a direction that I even really foresee, and maybe that's something that
That's a good point.
you know, Ngannou announces tomorrow.
Your boy just started up his own organization.
Who?
Kamaru. He started his own organization in Nigeria, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I did see that. Yes, when you said it was in Nigeria. See, rare Kamaru Usman W. I like that.
Comment, Kamaru, I love you.
No, Kamaru, if you see this, see me in the octagon. No, don't do that. You'll literally murder me.
Yes.
But no, I mean, if you think PFL, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which organization, but regardless of what it is, you know, I'm just excited to see him back.
So am I.
You know, honestly, I think at the end of the day, all of us as fight fans, all we want to do is just see the man fight, because we know about how fantastic he is. And at this point, you know, last time we saw him, he won a fight wrestling, and he's a dude that only knocks people out. Not a wrestler. So, you know, was that a development in his game? I would love to see him tested in whatever organization he does do against a wrestler, because, you know, did he really make that leap and bound in his wrestling, or was it just how bad Cyril Gane's wrestling was? And after the John Jones fight, you know, one would argue it's just because Cyril Gane can't wrestle.
No.
Because that was disgusting. We watched that right here in his basement, and that was one of the most. I put my money on Cyril Gane.
So did I.
My physical
and I looked like a jackass.
money, and we both looked like jackasses.
Bro, a minute. It only took 64 seconds for Jones to finish.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I think it was just I think Cyril Gane's wrestling is just maybe that bad. No. But maybe Ngannou's wrestling is
I still don't know how he's ranked number
one
in the heavyweight division.
He's still ranked number one?
Gane's 1, Pavlovich is 2, and Miocic is 3.
Yeah, that's not deserving.
No, I think Pavlovich is the clear cut.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of putting, unless it's a very close fight, like something like the third Whitaker Adesanya fight. I was fine with Whitaker staying at 1 because he is 1, you know, because it was a close fight, and it was the closest fight that I think.
Potential third. You said third. Potential third fight between and.
Oh, they fought twice, right?
Yes,
yeah. I meant the second fight. So the second fight, I was saying. Where it was close, you know, it was close. First one obviously got knocked out, but he retained that number 1 spot, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But when it's somebody who loses in dominant fashion, I want that man ranked at least 3, because he ain't even close to number 1 at that point.
And Miocic, him being at 3, is like, dude's 40 years old. He hasn't fought in over 2 years when Ngannou put him to sleep.
Oh, that was bad.
Oof, that was brutal. That was brutal. And Ngannou dominated that fight, the first round and the second.
He looked great. Yeah,
he did look great.
That was like the coming out party for Francis, because he's had all these flashy knockouts, but then when he fought Miocic the first time, you know, he fought well to a decision, and everyone was like, well, Francis is just a power puncher. But then with that fight, it proved he was not. He's able to stay technical. He stayed composed and got the second round devastating finish. Knockout cold. You know, had and I'm a big fan of Stipe, so to see him all folded up like that was not fun.
It was
not. But I mean, listen, you know, at the end of the day, that's the fight game, and you know, Ngannou, I'm excited to see where he goes, and we'll talk more about it next week. You know, potentially future matchups and what that means for the organization and for Francis in general. But just quickly, just to round out the top headlines of the week. The Tough Ultimate Fighter trailer dropped a couple weeks back. It's releasing May 30th. Conor versus Chandler, Team McGregor versus Team Chandler.
Oh man!
I mean, and I'm excited, dude.
I am
so excited.
Did you? I'm sure you saw this clip, and everybody watching this wherever you are.
Yeah.
When McGregor said to Chandler, "You know what weight we're fighting at?" And he's like, 185, and then he's like. What did Chandler was like? He's like, I'll do 185, and he's like, you'll do what you're told.
Yeah,
like that is such Conor. I love it.
Oh, dude, it's so badass. And and it's funny because the camera cuts back to Chandler's face. I just want to frame on that for a second, like right now.
Yeah.
And you just see him, and he's just
like, what are you gonna say to that?
He's just like, you're right.
I know, you are right.
Because like, there's nothing you can say. Like, because if you're Michael Chandler, like, you're completely like, he's been calling for Conor since he got into the organization. Yes. So he's more than happy just to, you know, like, just to be, you know, to film this with him and fight him. Because I think a little bit. I think Michael Chandler looks up to him a little bit. I think he's kind of, you know, a little bit of an idolization.
He's bringing. I mean, but Chandler already has a big name to begin with. He's fought.
Yeah.
He's fought,
he's
Alvarez.
the guy that people have really gravitated towards, especially since he's signed in the UFC. Right after that Dan Hooker win, I feel like it's been all like Michael Chandler's been a guy very much in the lightweight mix, and I don't know if he's the best fighter up there, especially at this late in his career.
He doesn't deserve to be ranked number 5.
No, I don't agree. But I think it's good for the organization.
It's very good for the
then
organization.
Connor's fighting the top 5th ranked fighter. He wins. Then he's
he's getting a title shot.
He's going to get the title shot against.
It's not even fairness. That's not an option. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't apply to Connor. Connor plays on a different set of rules. I think people know this, but I think that
I don't know if he's making 55, man. The guy was walking around 90.
Oh, dude.
Post-surgery.
I mean, he's still. I don't know if he's. Last time I heard, he was still not even in USADA's testing pool. So
isn't USADA ran by the
definitely
UFC?
On some stuff. What?
USADA's ran by the UFC. So if Connor, I don't know if they're gonna sweep him under the rug, but Connor's on something. He's on something. I don't know if it's steroids.
Connor's on something. I don't know if he's just been drinking his milk every night, a little bit of protein shakes, lifting a little bit of weight, but he looks brolic right now.
He does look good.
And I could very well see it being 170, and them fighting 170, and then being like, oh yeah, well he deserves a title shot at 55 now after beating Michael Chandler at 170. I could see it. I see it.
I remember when Kamaru was champion, McGregor was talking about a potential fight with Kamaru, and then he'd be the first fighter to ever hold 3 belts. So I don't know if that would happen if we beating Chandler.
I think Leon Edwards would be a better matchup for Conor. I think there's a little bit of a size discrepancy, but I think if Leon's able to get past Colby, and you got Bilal Muhammad on the doorstep.
Oh my God, I forgot the name already.
No one cares about remember the decision Muhammad.
Oh gosh,
no one cares about that man.
Not one knockout in his entire UFC career.
He sucks.
I don't want to say
he doesn't suck, but he's so boring. He's so boring. It's like he sucks because he wins, but he doesn't win in interesting fashion. He doesn't win in impressive fashion. He just wins.
Brady was his most, I guess, impressive win, and he didn't even knock him down. It was a TKO. The ref stopped it while they were both on the feet. Yeah. Now I'm a huge Colby fan, and so I'm saying this with complete bias. Does Colby deserve the shot? No, he does not.
Okay.
His most recent win was against Masvidal, and Masvidal's not in the organization anymore.
I'm so glad you said no, because I thought if you were about to say yes,
and I have to be realistic.
This podcast is going to get a lot longer.
No,
there was a
we have to be
0% chance he deserves it, but it's fine, because I love Colby too. He's a great name.
Oh.
His persona that he's put on in the last 5 years it's so entertaining. And it's such a great story too, the Colby Covington story. How he was almost at who did he beat?
Damian Maia. Brazil, you're a dump.
Yep.
He was getting cut if he didn't do something.
He was told before that fight, win or loss, he was getting cut.
Yeah.
And when he went on the mic and called Brazil, what do you call? What was the word?
A dump.
Exactly?
He's like, all these filthy animals suck.
Something
like
called
that.
Brazil a dump, and called, said all those whatever
those pleasant words.
Those pleasant words that came out of his beautiful mouth, just so well articulated and spoken. Ended up saving his career, and since then he's been, one of those guys, had one of the best personalities in the sport, and
absolutely.
He brings that, that WWE vibe to UFC.
He does.
That really
hope he beats Leon, and then I guess remember the decision, and Colby would be the fight to make. I guess.
I mean, but if Conor wins at 170, and then imagine a
Conor and Colby. Oh my God.
That press conference would do more pay-per-view. They could make the press conference a pay-per-view, and I would pay for it.
Oh, I would pay for it too. Take my $80, please.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know about $80. Let's not be ridiculous here with the UFC. Also, by the way, I got a little gripe with you guys. Why the heck are we raising the ESPN Plus prices every year? Now it's at $100 a year. Ridiculous. UFC Fight Pass $100 a year as well. And now I got to pay $80 for a pay-per-view? Like, how is the common man trying to enjoy his fighting and trying to cover the sport, afford being a UFC fan? Because you got to get all these 3 things just to be a competent, fight fan. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. But that's
Dana, what are we doing?
Dana, what are we doing? Stop being so money hungry. Maybe, care about the fans. Why $80 to watch 5 fights? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But we'll still buy it anyway, cause.
Yes, I will still buy every good one, but I don't even want to shout out the streams I use, but the illegal streams help out sometimes.
They do.
For fight cards that don't want to that I don't want to pay for, but with that, Fabian Edwards is really the only other headline this weekend. Won the main event in the Bellator event. It was a title eliminator against Gegard Mousasi, another veteran of the sport. Won via decision. It was pretty dominant. I didn't watch the fight personally. I don't know if you did either. But it sets him up for a title shot against Johnny Eblen at Bellator Dublin. We'll talk about the Irishmen here today. middleweight belt on September 23rd. So I'm excited to see. I'll probably be tuning into that one. I don't watch much Bellator personally, but I'm excited to see that. Johnny Eblen undefeated at 13-0, so that should be exciting, especially in Dublin. That should make for a great card. And I really like how, and it's an idealistic way that the Bellator does it. That it's not really realistic with the UFC and just how many fighters they have and their structure. How they already have the date set.
Yes.
So it's like he already won, so he's going to fight now on September 23rd. Like you have a date.
Yes.
I think that's cool. In the same way
cool.
where PFL has the tournament,
Mm-hmm.
I like that too. I think those are things
think
that the UFC
great.
should look to incorporate. But nonetheless, Leon's brother, we could have two Edwards with titles.
I think that'd be the first brother and brother champion. I mean, obviously they're in different organizations, but to hold belts simultaneously, that'd be
I mean, it's probably happened more on like a regional scene or at a
maybe
lesser organization, but I don't think ever before have we had, when you look at the premier MMA organizations, Bellator's top at least top 5, I'd say probably top 3. Right now. So for two siblings to be the best at in 2 different weight classes and 2 different high profile, high level organizations, it's
unfortunately Bellator's 185 does not compare to the UFC 185.
Oh, well, not even close.
But if Fabian gets the win in September, he could make the potential move to the UFC.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of those the title holders in other organizations go. So, I mean, listen, what's stopping Fabian? Because they fight at different weight classes, right?
They do. 70 and 85.
Yeah, and a welterweight. So, they wouldn't have to worry about that situation. So, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world if he's able to make that fight. Maybe he jumps over to the UFC. But some guys, like Patricio Pitbull, he's a guy that's just a company man through and through. Same thing with someone that he's fought multiple times now, AJ McKee. Another Bellator guy that's just been loyal to Bellator, and those guys make good money, so why not? You don't need to fight in the UFC if you're a fighter. At the end of the day, you're fighting for money, so you might as well fight in an organization where you're gonna get paid well and treated well, and all of that. So I think that for him, if he win or loss, I mean, UFC would be nice to see him in the UFC, of course. As fight fans, you want to see the best guys fighting the best guys, but at the end of the day, if he wins the title and wants to stay, all power to him.
All power to him.
Yeah, so now it's time to wrap up this show here, which has been, honestly, my expectation coming into the show was we were going to have weekly hour episodes. And I think every episode will be a minimum of an hour, but we are now approaching 2 hours here. And granted,
it doesn't feel like it, man.
There will be some cutting down, of course, but, oh, dude, it does not feel like 2 hours, and we'll keep it brief here because this next fight night coming up next week.
Oh, gosh.
Not too much to care about, Mackenzie Dern versus Angelina, right? Hill. Angela Hill.
I mean, Johnson's fighting. He's a dog.
I love Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson. He's beaten Poirier. Close fight. Well, not close.
Yeah, he's so funny because he's always Michael Johnson. He's always fighting down, or fighting up or down to an opponent. Like he's the definition of. You look at his record and he's like, wow, he really beat Dustin Poirier. He beat this guy, that guy, And you're like, how'd he do that? Because he fights up to those high-level guys.
Yeah.
But then when he's fighting someone who's, like, not good, he fights down to it.
Yeah, his record's 22-18. Like
it's crazy. And it's crazy. He's so much better than a 22-18
I think
fighter. Granted, he's, I think, 36 now, so he's, on his way out. But
another fighter to look out for is Jaqueen Buckley. He's making the drop, actually, to welterweight from middleweight. He's lost his last 2 fights at middleweight against Chris Curtis and Nasruddin Imavov, who's fighting. He's actually fighting Curtis and coming up in June. I could be mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a good fight for Buckley to get back on the rise in a new weight class.
Yeah.
Well, he actually fought at welterweight. I saw this from 2014 to 2018, and he got a little fat. Now he wants to cut back down. So we'll see.
Yeah, man, and he's a guy that he even looked at good shape at middleweight. So he's a guy that's uber talented as well. I think if he's similar to that we talked about Johnny Walker earlier in the show, where he's a guy that just needs to, kind of mature a little bit as a fighter, because he had that crazy highlight KO that everyone
spinning
saw,
back,
the spinning back kick that, I don't know if we'll ever see something that, that something like even close to that in the octagon ever again.
I don't know.
But it was just a crazy knockout. But after that, it's kind of, so that was like a big hype moment, and then everyone knows his name now. But then, he's kind of been on a little bit of a skid. So I think I think it's a good decision as long as his chin holds up at welterweight. Because some guys they cut too much weight and their chin goes with it.
Yeah.
Gastelum's
fun too.
So with Buckley, if he's able to keep his chin, I think it makes for a great fight. I think Filial gives him a great competition there.
I think so.
But two other guys I want to shout out for this fight night, and we'll start with the guy who's on the prelims, and a guy that a lot of fight fans, very familiar name, is Chase Hooper. He's actually a plus 114 underdog against Nick Fiore, and he lost his last fight via first round KO. That was in October 2022. But he's a young guy that, if he's able to develop his striking, because he's very ground oriented, if he's able to develop his striking, and he did win by KO in his not his last fight, his second to last fight.
Yep. He got knocked out in his last fight.
Yeah, he got knocked out in his last fight, as I mentioned, October. But if he's able to, really put it together, he's such a young guy, and I'm really
23 years old. Looking at it now.
Every time I see him on the fight card, I circle that fight. I want to watch it, because he's a guy that he's improved every time we've seen in the octagon, and he's so young as well. So there's so much growth for him.
Absolutely.
And another guy, Edmund Shabazian, a guy who I mentioned earlier in the show, is a guy who's one of those guys that got favored by the UFC, and I think was thrown into a fire a little too quickly. I know he got knocked out by Brunson in 2021, and then right after that he had to fight another killer. Who else did he get finished by? Because it was another killer that he also got finished by, and it was just it was tough to watch because he lost 3 straight.
Oh, Hermanson.
Hermanson,
and
Hermanson
then he lost to
well.
Imavov. So he's
and then right after that you fight the Joker, Jack Hermanson, and he's no joke.
No, he was supposed to fight in June against Brendan Allen.
That's a great fight. That's a good match. That's good matchmaking. Yeah. But he got a KO win December 2022, so got off that 3-fight skid. He's another guy. I think he's only 25 years old, and right
25.
Now, yeah, he's an underdog against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I've never seen Hernandez fight, but at plus 210, you gotta imagine that Hernandez is gonna pose a little bit of a threat to Shabazian. But the striking looks much improved in that fight in December.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that. And he's another guy that I got, in a fight card where there's not many big high profile names. Those are a couple guys I got circled that I want to see how they fight.
I would agree.
Yeah. So now on to the final segment. Let's go best bets for Dern Hill. Not one that many people are going to be betting, but if you're a degenerate like myself, you will be. Or just a big fan. We're not degenerates. We're just fans. We just like betting. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's harmless.
At least that's what I tell myself.
Yeah, right.
But I got 3. And I don't know if you have any on hand. But I like Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. Not Angelina. Angela. I got it that time. Over 4.5 rounds. It's at minus 160, which isn't great value.
Who's favorite? Dern is, right?
I think Dern is a slight favorite. I think.
Hill's fighting up in the rankings. I think Dern's ranked 8th and Hill's 14th.
Yeah.
So this is a big step up for Hill.
Yeah, and I think and when you look at Dern, who's primarily a ground woman, I should say. Does primarily a lot of her work on the ground. It poses a tough matchup for Hill, but I could very much see it being one of those kind of just like sloppy, stand-up fights. Mackenzie Dern can't get her to the ground, so they're just striking. So I could see a path where Angela Hill wins. So I don't want to pick the winner, but I think that this fight will go to decision. Okay. Angela Hill has 9 straight decisions. The last one was a win in 2020 via KO. So that's 9 straight decisions for her. Mackenzie Dern a little less, 3 straight decisions. I think she does have a submission win 4 fights ago. But
she's coming off a loss to Zan. Oh gosh, I don't know how to.
Who looked fantastic.
How do you pronounce her name?
I don't know.
Xinian. I'm butchering it.
You guys know who you mean. If you don't know who it is, look it up.
She's rumored to fight Weili Zhang.
I gotta. If we cover her, we'll figure out the pronunciation.
Oh yes.
Pre-show.
Next episode.
Next episode, we're gonna start with the pronunciations. But I think those two, very much decision fighter. Has decision written all over it. Not great value at minus 160 because the sports books, they know it's going to be a decision. Yeah. So get your money while you can. And for next one, Buckley versus Filial, I got under 1.5 rounds. Filial has 4 of his last fights finished by KO. which he got knocked out in some of them as well. Buckley, 2 of his last 4 finished by KO, TKO. It just has fireworks written all over it. They're 2 guys that like to stand and trade. I don't foresee much wrestling in this fight. I like the under at 1.5 rounds.
I like that too.
Which I think it's tough because when it's a 3-round fight and it's at 1.5 rounds, it's tough because like if someone gets a finish late in the second, early in the third,
I know.
Like I could very well see the fight ending in a finish, and I would bet that as well, just for the fight to end in a finish.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best bet, maybe honestly, than the under 1.5 rounds. So you want to get risky to the under 1.5 rounds, but I think for the fight to finish be a KO TKO, that might be a good bet as well. But not all sports books are going to offer that. I know for a fact that the only things that are being offered in terms of I bet on FanDuel, nothing more than the fact that actually I'm not going to say it on the podcast, but I have my reasons for why I can only use FanDuel for now. In a couple months I'll be splurging on all of the sports books.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I know they were only offering for the fight night just the over-unders and just the money lines. So, if you can get that at another sports book, go for it. And for the last one, we'll keep it simple with the money line. And this one is more me looking at Vegas more than anything else. And I got Ferreira beating Michael Johnson, just the money line straight, -156.
You think Ferreira's winning that?
Yeah, Ferreira coming off of 3 straight losses, and where Michael Johnson has won 2 of his last 4 and is still good doing so. Ferreira, 38 years old. I think Vegas knows best. I think that's something that I think everyone can agree on. Vegas knows best. So for Ferreira to coming off of 3 straight losses and to be that heavy of a favorite, -156, it's not it's not in the 2s, but
no,
that's still a significant amount of juice for a fight that when I was doing my research, I thought it was gonna be a pick'em. I thought it was gonna be -110, -115, maybe -120 the guy, but for it to be -156, that's all I need to know to put Ferreira money line.
Yeah. It'd be nice to see Johnson win 2 straight.
I'll be rooting for Michael Johnson. My money will be on Ferreira.
I think if he wins, he knocks him out.
I agree. I think so that Michael Johnson, he does have heavy hands.
He does.
But you got any best bets to wrap up the show? Anyone you like this weekend to win?
I'm like we mentioned earlier. I'm rooting for Buckley and Johnson. I have to look more as the week goes on into the bets as the odds change towards fight night. So we'll see. But I'll be betting on those 2.
Yeah, and
possible parlay.
Possibly a little parlay action, a little sprinkle.
Always. Never hits, but it's fun.
Listen, it's all fun at the end of the day, as long as you're not betting your whole bank account. As tempting as it may be.
Oh gosh.
But with that is gonna conclude episode 1. Let's look at the time of the. I mean, it's not gonna be this long for the actual episode, but we are now 2 hours and 3 minutes in. Look at that. I mean, if you would have told me coming into tonight for episode 1 we'd be talking for 2 hours, I would have said you're crazy.
I would have said the same thing.
But but I think that just goes to show that where this is this is we're gonna be doing this for a while.
We will. When you talk about something you love watching, the time just flies by.
I know, because we do this. Me and Aodhan. Just for background. Growing up, when did you move to?
I moved to Lyndhurst
right?
from Queens in 2017, so starting high school.
Yeah, so just beginning in high school, yeah. So, and, in that time, me and Aodhan were friends, but we were never, super close,
No.
But just because of the sport, we text almost every day.
I know,
it's
awesome,
it's like,
man.
it's
Bring people together.
It's bad. I sent you a TikTok the other day where it's like, it was one thing, it was like watching with your friends and gambling and stuff, and it was like that smiley face.
Yeah.
And the other side was like texting your one friend.
Yes.
Texting your one friend every 5 seconds during a fight night. Oh man, that's really what it is. But I mean, obviously, we weren't lying to you. 2 people who love the sport, and I think we're pretty knowledgeable about it.
Get used to these 2 faces.
Yes, sir. The future of Fight Talk right here starts in this basement tonight.
Yes, it does.
But that's gonna wrap up episode 1 of MMA on the Island pod. I'm not lying. Do you like that name? I love that name.
MMA on the Island. I love it.
MMA on the Island.
I love it.
It's too long.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
We appreciate you so much. And in the future, just so you know, we are going to be looking to have guests on the show and have fighters, that we'd like to talk to. Ideally, probably starting at our gym that we train at, Long Island MMA.
Get LaFleur on here soon.
Yeah. LaFleur will be on.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't worry. We'll get him on. But that'll have to be for a significant. We have to get our feet wet. We'll start with the guys that train under him, and then we'll work our way.
But we'll get there.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't worry. But we do want to have guests on the show. It won't just be us rambling the whole time like it was today. but as I hope you enjoyed regardless. And that's going to do it. So thank you so much, and we will see you next week. MMA on the Island. I'm Joe Frescott. That's Aodhan Williams. Take care, everybody. I hope you enjoyed.
Yep. Oh, man.
That was
That was awesome, bro.
We finished freaking the next day. That's so crazy.
Dude.